Gonna watch you fight for a minute at a time with Jon and Niall, and I guess you just rhyme with Bat Minute!
The nerve of Niall inviting me down there on such short notice, here to this podcast. Even if I wanted to go, my schedule wouldn't allow it. 4 o'clock, wallow in self-pity. 4:30, stare into the abyss. 5 o'clock, solve world hunger, tell no one. 5:30, jazzercise. 6:30, dinner with me. I can't cancel that again. 7 o'clock, wrestle with my self-loathing. I'm booked. Of course, if I bump the loathing to 9, I could still be done in time to lay in bed, stare at the ceiling, and slip slowly into madness. But what would I wear? Okay, if I record the podcast at 10 p.m., I should be okay. We are here at 10 o'clock, recording for your listening pleasure. It is I, John Parker, your humble host, here for the Bat Minute Christmas special.
And after watching this movie with fright, his co-host is here to put his thoughts on mic. It's me, Niall McGowan. I'm here also talking about this thing. And I know, John, you're like, oh, I'll write up some of the Jim Carrey shtick from the movie and quote it up front. Let me tell you, none of the shtick worked for me. So I was sitting through that because like, oh my God, I can't wait to complain about this so much.
My God, I am going to fall out with you. I don't think the next season of Bat Minute's going to happen by the sound of it. But anyway, before we dig into that, we must introduce our wonderful extra special guests. I say extra special. You know them both very, very well by now, I'm sure. We are joined by the incredible, the wonderful, the amazing. We have Dael Kingsmill and Omar Najam.
Woo!
Hello.
Hello.
We did not prepare any Grinch-themed introductions.
Hey,
We're
you're the
just
guest.
like-
You don't have to prepare anything. You don't even need notes. You can just turn up and talk crap.
Yeah, I could be eating rotten banana peels for all you know.
And I could be smashing glass into my mouth. It's something that happens in this movie.
Which is also incredible, Niall, no matter what you say.
Well, that's the thing. We might as well get this up. Well, for one thing, people haven't read the title of the podcast you're listening to. We are looking at the Jim Carrey version of the Grinch that stole, or how the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Yeah, get it right. Come on. Right, that upset me. Because I went to buy it on Amazon because I was like, I like this movie, so I'm just going to buy it. I don't care. I'm going to buy it. And it came up, in brackets 2000. And I was like, no, this came out about 5 years ago, didn't it?
Right.
Like, oh, no. And then you see Taylor Momsen and you're like, oh, no, it's old.
Yeah.
This was my first DVD. This was the first DVD that I bought with my money.
Oh, my God.
And I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, my mum was not stoked and tried to talk me out of it. And I didn't buy it because I loved it or anything. It was just that we were at the video store and it was there. It was on sale. It was $20 and I had $20 and I was like, I'll buy it. I'll buy it. It was a year later. It wasn't the year 2000. It was
2001.
definitely it was 2001. It was 2001, Omar. You want to test me? Huh? I was 8 years old. It was Christmas 2001. I was in the second grade.
Well,
You passed.
there could be worse movies to buy first on DVD anyway, because I like this. And, I think over time, more people like it, except Niall. And my first DVD was a David Blaine DVD, which I think I like David Blaine, but I think over the years, most people have gone off him.
Yes. Yeah.
Like most people should go off this movie.
No!
Because
I hate you.
I'm stunned to see, like, in recent times, people have been like, oh, yes, the festive classic, the Jim Carrey Grinch. I'm like, this thing. Because I remember the time it coming out, and it been like, well, the thing is, I didn't see it for, like, a long time, because I think I was, like, 14 or 13, 14 when this landed. And that was me in my film snobbery phase. Where
Most
I went
people
through,
have that at like 20.
Yeah, but there was a brief period where I was like, why would I watch, the X-Men movie? I've watched X-Men when I was a child.
Okay,
Too
all
busy
right, let's
watching-
not come after the X-Men.
It's time for Tears of the Sun. Here we go.
There was a period like back then I was just like, no, I'm only watching like Electric Light and Blue and The King of Comedy. I would never watch a Batman movie. And so the weird thing is though, because I was obsessed with film magazines, so I read a lot about The Grinch that Stole Christmas. Right, as it was coming out, but I didn't see it until it was on TV years later. And like looking at it now, it's just like I remember at the time it got sniffy reviews,
Yeah,
and I
it
can
did.
see why. Because it's like having a roller coaster up and down relationship with Jim Carrey that entire last season. This is easily my least favorite Jim Carrey performance.
Oh my
Like,
god, what the? This is one of his best performances.
No,
like even
oh.
Roger Ebert, right, who didn't like the film, said like it's not a good movie, but Jim Carrey is doing more than any actor has ever done.
He is doing a lot. I'm not going to debate
Doing
that.
a lot. Okay, all right. I'm on record from last season of Bat Minute. I was anti Jim Carrey. I feel like I probably lost a lot of good faith in my attacks on Jim Carrey. He was very wearing. And then watching this movie, I mean, wow. I mean, for starters, what a weird movie. I remember it being weird, but I didn't remember it being quite this weird.
Yeah.
But also I don't know where I land on Jim Carrey in this one, because I think I don't mind him when he's not left alone with the camera. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
when he's interacting with people, I was like, I actually don't hate this. This is fine. And then every now and then he would just end up doing a really he would extend a certain joke much longer than it. So I don't know where I'm gonna land on this one. I'm kind of torn between both of your opinions.
Oh, that's good to have a middle ground. Omar, what's your feeling on this then? Are you a fan?
Like it or hate it, the man disappears into the Grinch.
Yeah.
And that is extraordinary. Where at a certain point, I was like, I know he's in it. To me, it's like I acknowledge that the Star Wars Holiday Special had humans that crawled into Wookiee suits, but the second they did, almost like Midsommar level, like they just became the Wookiees. And you kind of stop, you're like, there's no human in there. Like, that is the eyes of a Wookiee. And so, to me, like, there's...
Did you see the contact lenses on that
Oh,
Grinch
yeah.
costume?
They're
Yeah.
Holy
terrifying.
No wonder he's committed
Piercing.
to the bit, because how could you not be after having to put those in your eyes? You have to put
It's-
those in your face. That's scary.
I do remember actually way back when I was reading about The Grinch rather than watching the movie. One of the things I said is apparently because Jim Carrey absolutely despised putting on the makeup for this, and then and as an act of solidarity, Ron Howard came out dressed up as the Grinch one day. Just like, look, I'm in it with you, buddy. Like, we can do this together. And Jim Carrey's thing was, initially he didn't believe it was Ron Howard. He's like, you've hired a guy to pretend to be Ron Howard. Like, and then after that, he's like, you've not got the
I had a guy
contacts
to
in.
pretend to be Ron Howard dressed as the Grinch.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
That's a niche thing to ask for when you call up an agency, isn't it? I need some guy who looks like Ron Howard, and I'm going to dress him up as the Grinch, okay? Is that right?
I love the idea of a Ron Howard type of being like, I mean, it's probably just like a grip on set where it's like, hey, you're kind of quiet. Like, yeah, I guess I am. Can I call you Ron for a day? Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, okay.
You look a little awkward. You got red hair. You're balding. That'll do. Okay, fine.
Yeah. But then, and after that, when he was convinced it was Ron Howard, his second note was, "You've not got the contact lenses in, and they're the worst part. If
No,
you've
I-
not got the contacts in, it's a complete waste of time."
I can imagine totally because I mean, there's these drag queens I love called the Boulet Brothers, and they always do like horror, and they'll wear contact lenses that
yes.
are completely white, and they're like you can only wear them for a really small period of time. Like you can wear them for like half an hour or something at a time, and then they're coming right out. And they hate wearing them, but that's their brand now. So like, well, we just have to do it. Basically, there's no option.
This is a little bit off on a branch topic, but I've heard a similar thing with the Twilight movies, because Kristen Stewart doesn't have brown eyes, and for some reason they were really dedicated to her having brown eyes as Bella, and so she was wearing contacts throughout the movies, but they were just colored contacts that made her eyes brown, and all the vampires had to wear these gold and red ones, right? And all the vampire actors complained the whole time because they were like, these are awful. They're so irritating. I just want to rip them out of my face. And Kristen Stewart was like, they're fine. No, it's not even that big a deal. But then once she had to be a vampire, she realized that the change in color, the yellow ones were just the worst and the red ones were just the worst.
Definitely, I can see that. And apparently, it's much, much worse once it goes like over your whole eye. You know, like they're like a whole thing that goes over the white of your eyes. And everything.
Right.
That causes a lot of pain, and it's a nuisance. And but at the same time, actually, I kind of side with Jim Carrey as well in saying like, well, you're not doing it properly, because again, those drag queens say the transformation is all in the eyes. Like nothing is ready and complete until you've got the eyes ready. And I think maybe that's part of it. It's like, well, you're not the Grinch. The eyes aren't done. You're not feeling the full thing. You're not getting it.
Yeah, Ron.
Yeah.
The thing is, to go back to what you're saying, Omar, and then to string that into why this is my least favorite Jim Carrey performance. I am the exact opposite of your opinion. At no point was I not aware that is Jim Carrey in a load of makeup.
Yeah, but it works for the Grinch.
Oh, I love this. This is such a read.
The thing is, it didn't for me, because because we had it all last season where it's like, Jim Carrey, some scenes he was great, like, you know, the scene you were in for, actually, Omar, like when he's, you know, in the silver outfit and he's doing the, you know, victory is inevitable and all that kind of stuff. He has a genuine sinisterness to him, and at points there's like, you know, you're aware it's Jim Carrey doing the Jim Carrey shtick, but it also has like, oh, he is the character, though. I believe that this is the Riddler.
Flashbacks. I hated that so much.
You know, here's what I think it is, and I know that we will. I think we will dive into the film to dissect it in a second. This is sort of just like you're looking at the Vegas from afar, and you're like, oh, I just remember what Vegas is like. This is kind of how we're. This is a very specific Nevada reference, but we're in the Prim Valley right now, where we're just like, oh, damn, I forgot it's Casino Central. So like, with it, what I love about this movie and Jim Carrey's presence in it is that this character and caricature that Jim Carrey is like in other films, I feel like they move the camera around him and edit to use the clay that is Jim Carrey to do something, and then this one, it just sits and you're just like, oh my god, it's just him. As like there's like some moments where he's like, kids, huh? Well, anyway, and you're like, oh my god, is he gonna keep talking? And he's like, so I just and you're like, this is like it felt like a James Lipton interview without seeing the full coverage at times, where you're like, we're getting a lot of Grinch. We're getting a lot of Grinch.
It's amazing, isn't it? That because like the book, when I read the book, there's hardly any characters. Even the Grinch barely says anything. He has a few lines, you know. It's mostly just narration. But this is just all Jim. And it's wonderful. And I think it feels like you're watching a play. Like
Yes, it does.
It does feel like a lot of Jim Carrey, and none of it was funny to me.
It was all funny, every laugh.
And it was, again, the entire time, I was just like, that is Jim Carrey trying his hardest to emote through makeup. And, like, at no point was I ever, this is the character. I was sitting going, he's doing his Tony Clifton voice, but because the makeup's over his nose, it sounds like he can't talk, you know, it sounds like he's only breathing out of his mouth. Then I found out, apparently he's doing a Sean Connery impression.
I could hear
I was
that.
like,
Oh, that's why he's doing the thing with his S's. Oh, I did clock that. I didn't realize it was Sean Connery, though.
But then it doesn't make sense to me, because, you know, back when, like Johnny Depp saying he based his Willy Wonka on Michael Jackson, and you're like, I get that, because both of them are very, like, you know, popular public figures who are weird recluses, so it makes sense. So Willy Wonka, Michael Jackson, I get it. Why is the Grinch Sean Connery? For what purpose? For what greater good is that?
I would pay so much money to see Sean Connery in The Grinch. I mean, rest in peace or whatever, but...
Guarantee it would have been a better film to me, because it would have been like...
We've all had people in our lives who are so deep in their trauma that they're not in the process of processing it. Mm-hmm. So it's no, right. So they're lost in it. And what I found fascinating about 50 minutes into this film is I realized that the Grinch, his thesis about Christmas is actually somewhat independent from his backstory. So every time you're spending time with the Grinch being like, you got that, right? Did you see what I did? I eat banana peels. I was like, you're not moving through this, though. You stagnated. You buried yourself in what happened to you as a child. And it's not like Jim Carrey played it It's not like Jim Carrey played it to being like, but this is what I want, and I'm going to do this thing. And it's a very traditional, like, Hollywood movie of just like, but if I can just get this one thing, I'm Luke Skywalker, and I want to, I'm going to stop the Empire. He was just like, no, sit down, join me. This is your life now. Your life is with me. I am receded so far into a mountain. I am like a Lord of the Rings chapter you will never escape. And there was something just so hostagey that I loved about it. That was terrifying.
It was relatable as well. I could be
There
the
was
Grinch.
something hostagey that you loved about it.
Yeah, because I mean, you do eventually leave, and then you go to the Who's, and they're like Christmas, and you're like, yeah. Anyway, Grinch,
Get back to the Grinch.
How did you build the chair? I have so many questions.
I don't care about the Who's.
The whole thing is, because again, too, taken from the actual. Oh my god! I don't even know where to start with this movie. Did we start at the start, or we just tear in?
Before we do, now let me say one thing. You brought up his voice, right? When we were watching it, both me and Lol, both of us thought the same thing. We said, "Oh, he sounds like Sean Connery," and also we thought he sounded like the Hannibal TV show's Mason Verger. We kept imagining him going, "I've got loads of viable sperm."
Yeah, you're talking about Joe Anderson, not the disgraced Liverpool mayor who just had to,
the other one.
The across the universe Joe Anderson. Someone else from
Yes.
across the universe is also in this movie. Not the Michael Pitt version of Mason Verger. No, which
the
is
other
the
one.
superior Mason Verger? I think we all know the answer.
But specifically, he sounded like he was talking about his sperm.
I think because that makeup job though of Mason Verger in season 3 kind of looks like a Who. So maybe you never know. It's a spiritual nod that Joe Anderson was doing there.
Well, that's a question I have as well. Like, why do the Who's look like that? I know it's in the book, but why? Why do they look like rats crossed with dogs?
That's why you start tugging on that thread.
Knocking on my door. Yes, Reese?
It would have been amazing if Reese had popped in to answer the question and was
Yeah.
like, okay, so the Who's, so 5 generations ago, the rat people of the North and the dog people of the West.
Oh my god, we need a prequel that explains the origin of the Who's.
We'll get into this later on, I'm sure, but I have a theory that way, way more world building went into this movie than was necessary.
Is it Dael? Can I just float one word out as a teaser to see if we're on the same page?
Okay.
Is it the word snowflake?
That's a whole separate issue. Okay. I have the most wild notes on my phone for this. It just keeps going. I can't get over the notes that I took for this. They're off the hook. And the first one is, what the it's set inside a snowflake?
Is that a Dr. Seuss thing, or am I misremembering? 'Cause...
No, it is not.
No, it's not.
Okay. I think it's a real early 2000s thing where they just liked having this little nifty notion of like, what if the camera zooms way, way into something? Like the beginning of Fight Club is like you zooming out of
That's
Ed Norton's
true.
brain.
It is very Fincher.
And then like The Matrix was like, oh, you zoom into the lines of code. And this is like, that's in the air. We want to do something like that.
Is it?
What if this is set in a snowflake?
Because Ron Howard bases his movies off of pictures. Did someone hand him a picture of a snowflake and he went, yes, opening? And they were like, how? And he was just like, don't. I have to get into the Grinch costume. Please leave me alone.
Otherwise, Jim's going to walk.
I assumed it was like, Horton Hears a Who. Don't they live on... They live on something tiny as well.
No, I never read that book.
I'm sure in Horton Hears a Who, they live on like a leaf.
I've heard that. Or
Yeah. A flower, something like that. So I thought it was the same thing. Like, I just assumed that was in the original book at the time. Like, oh yeah, they live on a snowflake. It makes sense.
no, that was an idea that came way out of left field that they just went with.
We can't. I know. I'm trying to stay on the teleological bouncing ball here. But just one thing before we leave the snowflake really quickly and enter into a film by Ron Howard with with the most surprising narrator voice of all time.
Yep.
Listen, Santa Claus exists in this universe, which for me was a surprise. Even though in the
Yes,
film I was
yes.
like, I forgot that
Not
Santa Claus.
everywhere, Omar.
Okay. Dael, I understand that, but I just didn't know the breadth of Santa Claus's work because I thought Santa Claus has to visit every house on the planet in order to deliver presents on Christmas morning or throughout the pre-Christmas night. which is already a lot. I didn't realize he also had to take care of every snowflake civilization that is fluttering in and out of existence as
Millions.
I have another question as well. So is Whoville the only town on this snowflake, or are there more towns on that snowflake? And then every other snowflake, do they also have who's, or do they have their own species? Is it like, universes or realities or planets?
Yes.
Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah. And what happens when the snowflake hits the ground? Do they all die?
I have to assume that once it melts, they're gone.
Yeah. So is their existence in our time? Their existence is like a few minutes long.
Oh, we have to check the
Essentially, yeah.
rotation of the snowflake from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
It's like Gone Girl.
They're part of the theory of relativity that suggests that, like, the smaller you are, the sort of faster your perception of time is. So maybe they're just so microscopic that, like, they do get to live out generations and,
Yeah, but to us, it would seem like minutes.
gone.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
can I point out one thing that is very sad?
Okay.
So the Who's, like, they celebrate Christmas and they heat up food and then they have, like, little fires, right? That the Grinch is like, I stole the logs for the fires.
Yeah.
The Who's themselves, by living in a snowflake but creating heat, are, of course, customizing and driving their own doom.
Climate change.
It's like Ron Howard now listening to this episode is like, finally, somebody gets it. It was all a metaphor for climate change.
That nerd Al Gore took too long. I wanted to just give you a straightforward example of what we were going to do.
Hey, let me say something as well before we dig in. I know we've said this about 20 times already, but Ron Howard, right? He's often called like, oh, he's good, but he's a safe director.
Yes.
This isn't a safe movie. This is a weird movie.
Yes.
That is a common
Yes.
thing people say about Ron Howard, but I have to say he's probably like the unsafest, the least dependable pair of hands, because you have no idea what the quality of the movie you're going to get out of Ron Howard. He will be like, it could be Apollo 13, it could be Hillbilly Elegy. Like, you just never know what way he's going to fluctuate. Like, this is a guy who made all those Da Vinci Code movies, and like, they're dreadful. But at the same time, he's still well respected. It's baffling to me.
Well, I've actually not seen any of them. And in fact, let me blow everyone's mind. I first saw this movie last Christmas 2019. Yep. And I loved it then, and I loved it so much that I paid money to watch it just for this show.
Wait, Omar, how old were you when you watched it?
I don't remember my age. I'd have to do maths, but it would have been at a time when, because Office Space had come out the year before. Jesus.
Oh, I love it.
That
So I was
is-
paying my first mortgage when I watched this movie. Yeah.
that is so weird that this movie came a year after Office Space and The Matrix.
Yeah, they seem like they're worlds apart.
That's so funny. This was, I think, the same year that Spirit, Stallion the Cimarron came out, which is amazing.
Realizing that I'm probably the only one here who watched this movie when they were like the target demographic.
Yeah. I was
It seems like it,
33 when I watched it. And it worked.
Here's the thing. As we're jumping into this, I would like to say I felt like I was watching it for the first time yesterday when I did watch it, because I was like, I didn't retain a single thing of this
I
movie.
thought I remembered it so well, and I did not.
Like all good art, it enters and leaves you with a ghost of the impression of seeing it. So
And it surprised me when I read the book how much is unique to the film.
right.
Like, they've come up with a whole backstory, which I assume there isn't, like, supplementary material for.
Oh, no. Again, this is, to make a comparison, though, again, to Tim Burton's Willy Wonka, where that gave a character who was inherently, and I would say necessarily, mysterious, a contrived backstory. And this is like, yeah, the original versions, like, all prior versions of the Grinch before this was just like, we don't know why the Grinch is the way he is.
Yeah, but that's boring.
It
It works for bloody Willy Wonka.
but I don't think, again, because this is
Willy
but
Wonka, they
that's-
had a whole novel to work, like it was a whole story to work with. That was fun. This is like a 30-page kids book with 4 lines on each page.
Yeah,
There's
supposed to be
not
like
a lot to work
a
with. I
simple
think
little
this
thing.
one has the best excuse for making up a bunch of junk. If you're gonna make a movie about the Grinch, and the weirdest thing about it for me, I came away from it at the end. I was like, you know what? It was a pretty well structured film.
Yeah.
it was well structured because they made up a bunch of crap. But I came out of it like, you know what? Made sense. They wrapped it. They had like ABC storylines, and they wrapped all of them up. I feel like I feel satisfied in the storytelling.
See, Niall, you're a freak.
But there's his backstory just opens up more questions to me than anything. Because it's like, oh, so this little kid ran away into a mountain and no one went after him?
Yeah, okay.
And
so,
even at that,
yeah.
it's like, why is he called the Grinch? That they find this child and they're like, yes, let's call him the Grinch.
So
Yeah, that's stupid. I'll agree.
No, Niall. His name is when you look at the school scenes, the flashbacks. Okay, this is something that was blowing my mind. They all have their names on the, Martha May. One of them's Noelle, and she has this look on her face that's like so disdainful, and anyway, that's that extras. She was amazing, but then Grinch is just Grinch. His name is Grinch, but when he became the town cryptid, they just added the to his name as a preface.
Like the Joker.
What? Yes, it's like it's what a choice.
I guess it is because he is like to them he's like, oh, it's like a weird. It's very sort of like, it's very well. They are very shunning to him anyway, but it's like, oh, this weird green guy showed up, and he was covered in green hair. So there's only ever one of him, so his name is Grinch, so he is the Grinch. And it's like that's horrible.
But the town laws that they have that seems to be old it has references to being Grinchy, to Grinchiness. So did they look at this kid eating Santa and go, well, what else can we name him?
Exactly. That must be what it is. And that whole thing is strange. I agree. Like, he shouldn't be called that. But I like the fact that the plot is basically these people think they're nice.
Yes.
And they're not. Like, I'm mostly on the Grinch's side, and I'm someone who loves Christmas. But I'm watching this thinking, I totally get it. I relate to this guy. Screw these arseholes.
Halfway through watching the film at around 55 minutes, I think it's when, maybe a little bit after that, when they're like, you won. And then, and I don't mean to, spoilers, but then like there's like a twist where they give him like the shaving thing. I texted Mia, our friend Mia, and I don't mean to be a bad role model and curse, but I just want to be accurate in my phrasing. I hope the Grinch fucks up this town. And that's how I felt, where I was just like, no, go on like a John Wick tear. And then when he proceeded to do it and he demolished the tree, I was like, you go.
Yeah.
Like I could not root for you harder.
Tragic about it as well is that from the Who's perspective, he did just snap out of nowhere. But from our perspective and the Grinch's perspective, we're like, that's
how gaslighting works.
Yeah.
And then people are like, you're being crazy. But the thing is
so far ahead in the movie just because I was like, we need to talk.
Sorry, let's go back to Anthony Hopkins from Westworld. Let's.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes, Hammy Ball Lecter himself, the lesser Lecter, and another actor who I do not care for.
You
Anthony
are
Hopkins.
very against Anthony Hopkins, aren't you?
I find him just disturbingly overrated. He's got this air of respectability about him, where all I've ever seen of him, he's 100% the guy is, I'll take a paycheck, I'll be in whatever crap you want me to be in, and I'll phone in a performance, and yet people still revere him as been this great actor. It's like, all he wants is to drive around in his friggin' in his convertible and to soak up the sunshine in his mansion. Like that's all Anthony Hopkins is to me. So I don't understand. And then the fact that it's one of the IMDb trivia things, it's like he recorded his dialogue here in less than a day. I was like,
well, of course he did.
Of course he did.
The narrator came up and I was like, this voice sounds familiar. I wonder who it is. And I go to look it up, and he's so low billed in this movie. Like, he's like, you have to go all the way into the extended cast to find who is the narrator. For it to be Anthony Hopkins, I was like, why did no one tell me?
His actual credit in the film is overheard man speaking outside the studio.
Oh, God. See, I like him, but I also half agree with you now. Like, I like him a lot, but I think what he does is a very specific thing. I think he is a chronic overactor. He hams it up, and sometimes that works fantastically, and sometimes it doesn't work. Here it works. I love the way he does it in Westworld, actually. You brought that up. I like him as Hannibal Lecter. Obviously, I'm a Mads man. But I like him as Hannibal, being hammy and camp and stuff. That's fine.
let Anthony Hopkins be funny. I feel like he's stuck in that Colin Firth area where people are just like, seriously.
To be funny though, Omar.
Yes, because so he used to tweet these.
Oh wait, his Twitter. Oh,
it's so funny and charming because he's just like this odd. I've also heard that he has he's like an autistic actor, which is something that I'm like, I feel like we should talk about that a little bit more. But I also only saw that on Twitter, so I haven't fully researched it. Then I started to get really fascinated with Anthony Hopkins, and I started looking just at Anthony Hopkins stuff, and I was like, cast him as a funny guy. Like, why did he ever, like, even Pacino started doing very odd, like, comedic roles in films where he'd pop up and do a very odd cameo, and I'm like, let the man do the funny thing. He clearly wants to do the funny thing. Stop making him so serious. It's kind of like Bruce Willis. Like when he popped up on Friends, you're like, that was a really good episode of Friends. Like,
one thing to return to what we were saying though, like I do agree with, as much as I disliked Jim Carrey's drastic overacting in this.
Yeah, but it has to be. It's the Grinch. It's for children.
No, but it's to the point though. I don't think that there's any level of nuance to him whatsoever. It just seems like a guy being. He seems like an annoying clown at a children's party. That's all he's doing.
that's what I will say. Okay, in terms of it being for children, it works as an excuse until you listen to anything he says, because not a single one of his jokes or references is aimed at kids, and it's not even like it's aimed at the parents to make them go ha ha ha, I'm having a good time watching this movie with my kid. It's aimed at such an odd level to just totally miss the mark, and I don't mind it. I'm not mad about it, but also I'm like, why did I get this as a kid? Because I don't think I did.
You know what it reminded me of, actually? Something I really loved as a kid. And something that this episode is reminding me of already, actually. It reminded me of Drop Dead Fred.
Oh.
Like, he makes a lot of jokes that as a kid, when I watched it recently, actually, I realized as a kid I did not get that joke. Like, he looks up the woman's skirt and goes, "Oh, cobwebs."
Yeah.
Like, as a kid, I'd be like, "What? What's he talking about?"
Well, see, but Drop Dead Fred, though, it works because it's a character from the little girl who's like not allowed to like raunchy and dirty things and stuff. So she's invented a character who calls some people like the mega bitch and things like this, things that little girls aren't supposed to do. So it makes sense that his jokes skew adult.
Yeah.
But this is just like, again, we mentioned it a lot last season, but this is very much like in that scene in the Batcave where he has to blow everything up. You just know they just set up the cameras and went, Jim, go and do what you want.
Yeah.
And this whole movie is just, Jim, just do stuff. Just go out and be Jim Carrey.
Yeah, but I like that. It felt like...
No, I will say those are the worst bits.
it felt like the genie in Aladdin to me.
That's the,
I think he
Genie
was
Aladdin's
aiming
funny,
for the genie. I think he was aiming for the genie, but he didn't reach the genie. Again, I didn't hate it. I was whatever. But I think that, the genie in Aladdin irrevocably changed kids' movies. Everyone needed a character like that to be the fast-talking, wacky, like, character that's the sidekick for the hero. But I don't like Jim Carrey. So
listen, I think a huge element of this, filmically speaking, is that you have the Grinch, who is a genie-esque character, who then also like Ferris Bueller sometimes and turns to the fourth wall and breaks it. So he's conscious he's in a story about the Grinch, but on top of that, he has a narrator that he is seemingly unaware of. So he's smashing up against the abilities of... Oh, he does. Okay, so he knows... Sometimes he knows his narrator, and also 2 times they break out into song. So it's just like this thing of like these huge conventions that they're like to the point where I'm just like, you know what, Grinch? I'm with you. Throw it all into the fire, because I can't hold on to any sense of like which game we're gonna play. And so I love that he in the beginning of the movie has given up, and he's just like, look, whatever, we're probably on a giant snowflake. You're right, Grinch, you are. So
it is aspirational. I want to be that guy.
But in speaking though about the genie and just about how Jim Carrey came to be in this movie, quite an interesting way this movie even came about, because apparently Dr. Seuss, or Theodore Geisel, I believe is the way his name's pronounced.
Yeah, that blew my mind. I assumed he was called Seuss.
Well, I think it was like Theodore Seuss Geisel or something like that. But basically, they made the Thousand Fingers of Dr. T into a live-action movie that he despised. So for his entire life, he's like, the Grinch must never be made into a live-action movie. It can never happen. And so he died, and they're like, okay, yoink. Took the rights straight out of his cold,
Like as
dead
soon as
hands.
Prince died, they were like, release everything on Spotify.
Exactly, yeah. Although apparently what actually happened is that the rights went to the widow Geisel. And she held on to them for 7 whole years until she went, all right, I need money. And decided then that she was going to sell them off. But she had like very, very stringent rules about what she wanted done. And it says, in July 98, Geisel's agents announced via letter that she would auction the film rights of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. In order to pitch their ideas to her, the suitors ultimately had to be willing to pay $5 million for the material and hand over 4% of the box office gross. 50% of the merchandising revenue and music-related material, and 70% of the income from any book ties in. So she knew what she was doing.
Hey,
She
that's
was
clever, yeah.
Yeah. The letter also stated
Love
that
it.
any actor submitted for the Grinch must be of the comparable stature to Jack Nicholson, Jim Carrey, Robin Williams, and Dustin Hoffman.
I get it.
So-
Because Jim Carrey is basically a living cartoon of a man.
Yeah.
And so who would make more... I know you didn't like it, Niall, but like, look at it on paper, at least. Who makes the most sense as this character? It's Jim Carrey at the time.
No, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Dustin Hoffman. Like,
To be fair, he did
what?
Hook. He played a good hammy Captain Hook. I can imagine him sticking on makeup and going for it. Maybe not to the level Jim Carrey went for it, but you know.
Well, he would. The thing is, he would have read into something. Yeah, it would have been such a linear Grinch.
Read into
He would have
that
been like,
repressed
no, they were meant to
trauma
be.
that you were talking about earlier, Omar.
Yes.
How-
Because the Grinch never addresses. Yeah.
He doesn't. He never addresses any of that stuff, really.
There's never an apology thrown his way either at the end. They're never like, oh, we were horrible to you, Grinch. Like, it's just like he learns the error of his ways, and then they're like, oh, guess we're good now. It's like, you let this small child run off and live in a mountain by himself for, 30 years or
Because you
whatever? What the hell?
bullied him.
Yeah. It's like, I think that's one of the major problems I had with it, is that, like, you got your original version, because, again, it's a very, very simple children's book. So the Who's are inherently good in the original rendition, and the thing is that Grinch is he's the bad guy, they're the good guys. He steals Christmas, and then he finds out, oh, what I thought Christmas meant to them turns out doesn't actually. It means a little bit more. And
Yes.
this movie is like, no, the Grinch is a traumatized being who has legitimate rights to hate these people, and these people are inherently hateful. Like,
It is
they
so
are
weird
consumerist
that this movie all
assholes.
centers on kids making fun of him for cutting himself while shaving. Like that
Yeah.
is so weird. It's because of course he's going to be bullied. He eats glass and he's green and furry. But then they were like, and then he tried to shave and he cut himself while shaving. And so all the kids laughed at him and he ran away and lived in a mountain forever and his mum's never looked for him. That's real weird.
And it's basically we've taken the original story and cross-referenced it with Carrie. And like even the teacher laughs at him, much like Carrie before she goes on the rampage spots her teacher laughing at her when she gets like dunked full of blood. And at the end of that movie, you're like, yeah, you go flip John Travolta's car, Carrie. Like, and in this movie, you're like, yeah, set fire to the goddamn tree and freaking give them what for? Like they're all assholes.
Well, Niall, do you want me to I'm going to say one negative thing, because front to back I pretty much love the film. There's one thing I don't like, which ties into that kind of, when you see the flashback, how he came to be, essentially. He just sort of descends from the heavens like all the Who's do in a basket. It's like, where's he come from? I don't know. Right? It's made out that the Grinch has been bullied into this position. Like, he tries his best, he gets bullied, he runs away. Yeah. But you see him as he first lands, and he's acting like a little prick then.
He's inherently evil. It
Yeah.
insinuates that he's born that way.
So what's
It's
the
a-
message? They need to pick a message.
And the thing is, you know who that reminds me of? One Oswald Cobblepot.
Yeah,
from
it's exactly the
Batman
same.
Returns.
Little bassinet with an umbrella.
It's exactly the same, because the plot of Batman Returns is he's been bullied into this, but it shows that he's an arsehole to begin with.
And weirdly, the thing is, too, is like, I can't fault them for like the set they built. But instead of it looking like a magical sort of snowflake-dwelling wonderland, the Who village weirdly reminded me of like a Tim Burton Gotham.
Oh,
because it was really murky and way too crowded and like
Literally look like the architecture in the book, but yes, Omar?
Here's about the Who village. One thing I just wanted to throw out really quickly, just from my experiences, and this is my favorite thing about, because I watched this movie when it first came out, then I couldn't retain it because I have a normal human brain, and it takes pure omniscience to remember the plot points, because it's just like it's a subconscious experience. When you go on, it's a little bit different now, but when you used to go on the Universal lot tour, they would take you to these iconic locations, and they're like, here's where Jaws was filmed, and Murder, She Wrote also takes place here. Here's some Jurassic Park sets. And then you turn a corner, and you enter Whoville, and every single tour I went on would go, folks, you're in for a treat. I'm sorry that you had to see all that garbage before. Here is what you've all been hoping for. It's the Who Village from the Grinch, and everyone on every tour I ever went on lost their goddamn minds, and they're like, here's where the magic happened. And it wasn't for Jurassic Park, it wasn't for Jaws, it wasn't the Psycho House, it wasn't all the stuff that I like my eyeballs were melting out of my face about, where I'm like, these are where, the creature from the Black Lagoon, lagoon. It was, you would turn the corner, and it's bright, hot, 100 degrees Fahrenheit Burbank, California, and it's just these sun-soaked buildings, and we treat them like they're the ruins of America. Like, these are the most, and it's so, when I was watching this, it's just the one street that they kept turning around and dressing up a little bit differently, and it's just so funny seeing it, because I'm like, there's so much wonder that just got stuck in this weird little village that when you go there, people like hail it like it's a religious site, and so there is something weird about the Who Village. Like,
something that ties into something that I really liked about the Who Village in general was, because this movie was a lot older than I remembered it being. It was refreshing to see a movie like this that's clearly all on a set.
Yes.
Like, it felt real and physical, and it looked like a set, but I mean that in the best possible way.
Not like the new Dolly Parton musical way. Yeah, it's like, it's practical, and like, they do have, it seriously feels like in the original Batmans when like the Batmobile is driving down a street. Yeah. And it's not like Chicago or something where like there's probably permits. You're like, anything could happen because it's a set. This thing is blowing fire out the back.
I think at some point, if the Grinch pushed the Ice Princess off into the tree, and that's how he destroyed Christmas, I'd be like, all right, this makes sense. Like, if he threw a freaking umbrella full of bats at somebody, he's like, yeah, this tracks, man. Again, too, because like, we should also mention, this is like what Jim Carrey's third green-based character as well.
Yes.
He obviously played the Riddler, and then prior to that, he played the Mask.
Yes.
And now it's like, so Jim Carrey he's got a bit of a hard-on for the color green.
Would you say this is closest to the Mask? That's the kind of vibe I got. Like cartoony, over the top, silly.
Yeah, the Mask, but for kids.
The thing is, because I like. Well, actually, the thing in the Mask is like I like Jim Carrey's performance as Stanley Ipkiss when he's like, well, as soon as he puts on the mask, he's like, I get it, I get the appeal. He's a Chuck Jones cartoon brought to life, much like he's supposed to be in this. Yeah. But it's just like, he's very, very annoying. Like, he's a bit too much. It's not like Michael Keaton in Beetlejuice, where it's like, it's zany, but it's like, he's got an edge to him. Well, and Jim Carrey can have that edge as well. Like, again, at some point, we'll be probably covering, like, the Cable Guy. It's like, he's got a lot of nothing but edge in that movie. Mm-hmm. This, though, is like, I think every take he would have done a different thing. And they had no real end goal in mind than to just be loud and just do things really outrageously. And it's like, dude, just stop.
You could play the Grinch.
Oh.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, it's interesting that you brought up both Michael Keaton and Tim Burton, because watching this, as much as I loved it, I did think in my head, like, what would old school Tim Burton have done with this material? Like, it felt Tim Burton.
My
but not
roommate
quite.
said the performance felt Michael Keaton. Like, literally said those exact words.
Like, I love what we got, but wouldn't that have been great? Get Michael Keaton and Tim Burton to do it?
But at the same time, Tim Burton, this is basically Batman Returns crossed with Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah.
You kind of got the Grinch.
Yeah. So why don't you like it?
It just, none of it's funny. I don't like it. I think he's just loud and annoying, and it's just like, I hate all the characters. I hate all of them. And it's just, nothing about it
Wait,
is
you
enjoyable
hate
to me.
Max the dog?
Well, I'm not a dog fan, as you know, John. But like, Max the dog. I feel very, very sad for Max the dog because somehow he's got, like, I don't know, abducted by the Grinch. For whatever reason, he's in this abusive power dynamic with this guy.
There's no origin story of Max, right?
No, he just has this dog, and the dog seems like it's it's trimmed. It doesn't seem like it's neglected in any way, except for like verbally all the time. But I do think that, like, if the Who's had like an RSPCA, they'd be like, we gotta go and get that dog, man. Well, the Who's would never have that though, because they let a small child run into a mountain and just left them there for 30 years.
I feel like I'm letting Niall down today because ordinarily I don't like Jim Carrey. I don't like dogs in movies. I'm not a big dog fan anyway, and I hate child actors. That's usually like a trifecta of things I can rely on that I won't like about movies. But in this movie, I don't hate Jim Carrey. The dog is whatever. And I really liked Cindy Lou Who. Taylor Momsen was so freaking cute.
Yeah.
She was so cute. And every time she was in the movie was better. I don't
Agree.
Can I ask what her deal is?
Like, in what sense?
Cindy Lou Who. Cindy Lou. They're all Who's, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I won't go that far anymore into the surnames. So Cindy Lou.
Oh, I will in a minute. Just you be ready.
So Cindy Lou in the beginning is like, I don't think this is what Christmas is. So we got that bit of information.
Yeah.
And then she loves going through the trash chute, which you're like, I think the other Who's wouldn't like that. And then when she interacts with the Grinch, she's like, you're funny. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to figure out
Parallel with her and the Grinch. At one point, the Grinch even says that she reminds him of himself when he was younger. He doesn't know whether it's because of the nonconformist streak. You remember that bit? So they're drawing this parallel because she's having Yuletide doubts. She's having Yuletide doubts. And so she's not a super Christmassy person. And that's why, and she needs the Grinch to come and enjoy Christmas because that's her only hope. She sees herself in the Grinch. And if he can enjoy Christmas, then there's still hope for her.
So here's the thing about that for me. That's absolutely brilliant. It's such a complex character for this child to play. Because it's not like, but what about Christmas? It's like, I just love that she's like, I don't think this is it, but I think there's something here. And then the Grinch comes and she's like, and it's not completely this, but there's bits of this I'm going to take to apply. And I'm going to try to manipulate these people using your words because I think that's the thesis of this town. But if it's not, I'm going to undo the thesis with the antithesis, which is the Grinch. And then once the Grinch gets here, I'm also going to recognize this thing, but also I believe in Santa. And watching it, I was like, this is the best written character in the history of cinema. This is so
enjoyable to me. And when she's talking to Santa and she's like, what's Christmas really about? And because it's the Grinch and he and all the rest of the Who's were raised in Who society where they genuinely believe that the meaning of Christmas is presents. And so the Grinch pretending to be Santa is like, it's presents, I suppose. And she's like, damn, I really didn't want that to be the answer. And it's like this genuinely emotional moment.
Do you think Taylor Momsen appreciated that as a child?
I hope so. I love all the scenes where she's just sort of in the background, like she's at the front of a crowd or whatever, because when she's just getting to be an extra, she looks like she's just having the best time. Like when she giggles in that movie, I feel like she's genuinely giggling about something.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to see that if people don't know, Taylor Momsen is currently the lead singer of The Pretty Reckless. And once she starts singing in this, it's kind of like.
Are you Christmas?
But the thing is, you hear her singing in this, and it's like, oh, this kid is terrible. She can't sing. And then thankfully, in The Pretty Reckless, she spent the rest of her life proving to people that she can sing.
Yeah, but Niall, no kid can sing. All kids singing is awful.
Any
I'm sure
kid who can sing well, I don't trust. Just so that any listeners know, if you're trying to find Where Are You Christmas to put on your Christmas playlist, as I was, here's the trick, all right? Because you'll keep getting the Faith Hill version, Where Are You Christmas? And that's not what you want. You want the Taylor Momsen, breathy, high-pitched. You want that, right? Because you're Christmassy, like me.
Definitely.
If that's what you want, you have to type in Christmas, Why Can't I Find You? Because they're actually technically different songs. So I have discovered that the Faith Hill version is called Where Are You Christmas? The Taylor Momsen version is called Christmas, Why Can't I Find You? So there's a tip for all the listeners.
What's the Faith Hill Pearl Harbor song again? Can we make that a Christmas song? I know it's not.
Why not? Why not?
Great.
Who
Thank
cares?
you. Thank you.
Sorry. We got to talk about this naming structure real quick. Okay. Because this is like, there's so much world building to talk about, but I think this is the most important thing to me to prove that way too much world building went into this. Because we know that in the book, the only characters really are the Grinch and Cindy Lou Who. So Cindy Lou Who is the basis for all the names in this movie, because they don't have anything else to base it on. All right. So all the Who's, this is what we know from the film, all the Who's seem to append some Who-based name to the end of their names. So the examples we get, Who is the main one, the Who family. But we've also got Whovier, Hudaberry, and Houlihan are some examples. Then their middle names act more like their family names, right? So Cindy Lou Who, Betty Lou Who, Stu and Drew Lou Who, and the father named Lou is Lou Who, right? So the family name there is Lou. And then you've got Martha May Whovier, right? Who I always kind of forgot wasn't already married to Augustus Mayhew.
No, not
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay. I mean, first of all, are they related, or is it just a common surname? I need to or family name rather, because it's not the surname, because the surname is the Who, and it's whatever. So is it just like, because if you're like, even if your name is Smith, so even if we go with the common surname, if your name is Smith and you live in a small town and you marry another person with the surname Smith, that's a bit weird. That's a little bit weird. So I'm side-eyeing the mayor there, but the real question is, like, this isn't a book thing. So they did actual world building here. Like they chose to give Martha May and Augustus Mayhew the same family name. And I need to understand why, because they could have named them anything.
Well, being inbred would explain the noses.
Oh my God.
That's all I can.
And another step. I have a quote here. I'm sorry. There's this movie. It's gotten to me. So Martha May Whovier, you will notice, is the only adult who doesn't have a nose. The number of my notes that are referencing this and puzzling about it with my puzzler until my puzzler was sore is astounding. But then eventually, right, I found a quote. Let me find it. So blah 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 blah. This is all right. Okay, so she's got no nose. All right, here we go. This is a quote from the Seuss fandom wiki.
Oh.
It says Martha May is the only adult who doesn't have a snout, which is implied she has had plastic surgery, which, grammatical imperfections aside, that does set my mind at ease. But what is that?
Okay, hold on. Wait, we got to go one step further into this. Sorry, because one of the facts I retained from this film, in my memories of this movie, is that the mayor attacks Mary Lou Who for not having her nose grown out. Which is, so her nose thing is hold on, I'm sorry. Okay, This is about to get very body politics. So if her nose hasn't grown in yet, which is then to infer that it's almost this like adolescent maturing.
In the flashback, don't have noses yet.
So then, what's her name again? Whovier, the one you were just talking about.
Martha May Whovier?
Yes, Martha May, who also that actor, the sexiest dude. I believe she's also in the Dolly Parton musical, and she is ageless, and it's not fair.
I saw her. I saw her in the trailer.
She's just the best. She's absolutely the best. I know she's the best. I think. Hopefully, she's
actually be happy to know, Omar, because that's Christine Baranski, and She's in Chicago, Sybil, and she's also a voice in Spirit, Riding Free, the sequel to Spirit's Stallion of the Cimarron.
I know when a woman's got good taste. So she got plastic surgery to reduce her aging adolescent, her post. It's not even a far down the.
Not Christine Baranski.
Just to be clear, yeah. Yes. Oh my God. Martha May got plastic surgery to supposedly, right, according to the gossip mags, to undo her adolescent growth, which is one of the only ways.
Younger.
Oh no!
How messed up is that?
No.
Yeah, like I get what they're going for. Like, oh, she wants to be younger. Okay. But if the nose is specific to adolescents, now it takes on a creepy thing that the mayor is really into.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we've done it.
Really into her. He was really into her when they were kids too. He was always creepy into her. But I can't. The amount of world building. Like, imagine the writers sitting down to write this. And so it's like, well, what if, so these noses that we see in the picture book, yeah? What if that's something that the Who's get when they reach adolescence? When they go through puberty, they grow into their noses.
I love that alone was a conversation.
I imagine it all comes from we can't have children sit in the makeup chair for too long. So that's out of legal necessity, we have to do something about that. Except for the kid we're going to put into the Grinch outfit, who is going to have to endure hours for the friggin' sitting getting all that stuff put on. The stuff that apparently Jim Carrey consulted with a CIA torture expert to learn how to cope with having to sit in the makeup chair for that long, because he apparently kicked a hole in his trailer. He hated the process of it. He claims it was 8 hours to get that put on. The makeup artist says it was only 2 hours and 15 minutes, which is actually pretty impressive considering it's...
Yeah, that's quick, because...
It was only 2 hours and 15 minutes. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Like, as in, the outfit is a lot. I would expect it to take longer than that.
I've spent that long getting ready for a night out.
His whole body's green and it's covered in fur. Like, I feel like it would take longer.
But as we had like last year, there was a lot of talk about Jim Carrey, and a lot of people came to us with the impression like, oh no, Jim Carrey is supposed to be like a nightmare to work with, because mostly from that Man in the Moon documentary where he was a nightmare to work with. But from Batman Forever, it's like, oh no, all the problems there, that was all Tommy Lee Jones not sanctioning his buffoonery, etc., etc. And so I was always getting the impression like, oh, I think Jim Carrey is like a nice enough guy, but apparently not on this movie. It says because it's all revolving around the makeup. It says makeup artist Kazuo Hiru is very vocal about his difficult experience working with Carrey, and says, quote, on set, Carrey was really mean to everybody, and at the beginning of the production, they couldn't finish. After 2 weeks, we could only finish 3 days worth of shooting schedule, because suddenly he would just disappear, and when he came back, everything was ripped apart. We couldn't shoot anything. Things escalated to the point where Hero had to leave production for a few days until Ron Howard called him back, promising that Carrey would keep his temper in check. Hero returned to continue applying Carrey's makeup, but cited it as the worst experience of his life, and one of the reasons he initially retired from the film business.
Oh my
God.
Nice.
All right, I'm not condoning it at all, but yeah, like I get the vibe that Jim is one of those who's like, I am the character.
Yeah, which is why he bugs me, because he only ever plays dicks.
Yeah. So I get the vibe he probably is a nice guy, but he's like, right, I'm playing a dick. So now I've got to
You're like,
act
I'm
like
playing a dick, and so I'm going to be method about it. No, when you're playing a dick, don't do the method thing.
Yeah, no, I agree totally. I'm very against method, but I get the vibe that is his approach.
I wonder if during the production of Liar Liar, if Jim Carrey refused to tell a lie for like the 90 shooting days or however long that took to make. And every time someone asked like, oh, Jim, did you keep, you didn't return that Christmas present I got you, did you? He would just like start throwing himself through windows and stuff like that.
I could see that. He's the old school version of, who have you got now? Jared Leto.
Well, see, when Daniel Day-Lewis does it, it's impressive. But when Jim
because
Carrey
he doesn't act like an
Jared...
arsehole. That's why.
Because Daniel Day-Lewis is like, okay, I have to live like Abe Lincoln.
Yeah.
Jim Carrey's like, here I am. I'm going to be mean to people again.
But well, like if Daniel Day-Lewis was playing the Grinch, would he just go and live on a mountainside for like a couple of years or something? He's like, I'll be back.
Almost certainly. He would eat garbage. It'd be bad.
Only one way for us to find out how Daniel
remake this
is to get Daniel Day-Lewis out of retirement
Yes. I feel he would come out of retirement for the Sleepy Charlie Media production of The Grinch.
The thing is, too, like, you'd be like, oh, they just remade The Grinch. Hollywood remakes now are in such quick turnaround. They made an Addams Family movie last year that they're already rebooting. So, by all means, we can go to them. We're making The Grinch again. They'll be like, fine, yep, like, how much do you need?
And I liked that last Addams Family, but they're doing it anyway. They're just going to do another one.
I
Fine.
was thinking that now, again, though, and talking about things that, because Jim Carrey or Tim Burton, oh yeah, he would suit this Grinch material. But in theory, Tim Burton would have suited Alice in Wonderland and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And Tim Burton doing the Addams Family seems like, oh, it's a no-brainer. And that's why I'm worried, because I think once you give him a thing that seems like that's him in his comfort zone, he just CGIs it up and he just doesn't know what he's doing.
Doom.
And it's just
yes.
yeah.
It's a shame. But would 2000 Tim Burton have done well? Like, what was he doing in 2000?
Was that Big Fish?
Planet of the Apes was he was in production of that at the time. So
I thought Big Fish as well. Big Fish came after Planet of the Apes, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Big Fish is like 2004, 2005, I think.
Okay.
And yeah, Planet of the Apes is 2001. So the thing is, that Planet of the Apes is the first real severe stumble, I think, for Tim Burton. So maybe the Grinch could have saved him.
Yeah.
Like if he had that instead of Planet of the Apes, which is like, oh, he would be more suited to this than Planet of the Apes.
Well,
maybe you never would have had a Folly. He would
They've
always
gone
been
for a Tim Burton vibe with the movie, because I get a very a kind of a dark feeling from the film from beginning to end, really. Like, obviously it has a happy end, but it's quite dark compared to the book.
The moment that it really does turn, because I agree that there is a dark feeling, I think it's when all the Who's are doing all the Christmas stuff, and you're like, oh, great, yeah, Christmas. And then the cashier starts to get very overwhelmed. And that's the moment where you're like, wait, this is bad?
About 2 minutes into the film.
Yes.
And that's being quite generous. I'm just giving room for Anthony Hopkins to finish his, opening narration.
Here's
You got to zoom in on that snowflake, and then immediately you're hit with the cashier. I mean, first you're hit with David Bowie, who's walking along the side of the staircase.
Oh, if only it was David Bowie.
The Goblin King over here.
And there's a Gordon Ramsay who walking around there too as well. So, oh my God, they got all the celebs in this thing.
Yeah, and then immediately you zoom into the store, and the cashier's getting overwhelmed.
Well, no, the thing is, the cashier's like, here, everyone. And I guess if you already hate consumerism, which everyone should, but that's not to get all political, but like, then you're like, yeah, this is bad. But there's a definite turn where the first time you see the cashier, it's like Christmas, 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 and you're just like, oh yeah, have a holly, jolly, jolly.
And it's got that like Power Rangers style dubbing where you're like, this guy could have spoken, but instead you're dubbing over him anyway.
Yeah, exactly. That they were just like,
That was weird.
My nephew's got to get, into SAG. But then suddenly when Mary Lou Who is like, are we the baddies? The camera becomes canted and suddenly it's this upward shot. It's like, and then like suddenly you start to.
Crazy camera angles the whole way through the movie. Most angles are Dutch.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, it's a bunch of Dutch angles. Like, that's the moment that things start to turn, because at first you're like, oh, Christmas, 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 and then like, the father, the Stu is like having a great time, loving it. Lulu, that's it. Sorry, my bad.
Stu's the brother. Get it right.
Yeah, get it right.
Played by
maybe horny
Hutchins from
teams?
Bones.
Sorry, that's another thing. We will eventually start talking about the movie, but it's
someday.
There's a moment where it turns, and that's when I was like, wait a second. Even though they've taken me through the town for a minute, I'm starting to spot like statues and stuff that are starting to really wig me out. And it feels a lot like when you arrive in a community that's a little too religious and everyone's very nice, but then suddenly someone's like, and make sure, you cover up your neck. And you're like, what? And you start to look around and you're like, or they'll say something just like very triggering. And they're just like, well, boys do this. And you're like, oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Where am I? And that is,
I think the bit that first freaks me out is the introduction of the weird little Thumbelina Who's. When that guy crawls out the trumpet with his own trumpet. And then the big Who sucks him back in.
Oh my God, I have to say
what
that.
Are they all about?
I just laughed so hard I got a stitch in my side. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Why are they so small?
Who are these Thumbelina Who's? Where did they come from? Is this more crazy world building? And then I thought they would forget about them, but no. Later on, Later on, when he's tearing up the town, there's just more Thumbelina Who's.
Yeah, it's the Grand Theft Thumbelina Who Auto,
It
basically.
makes no sense. Like, are they a different species? Like, what? Who are they? What are they? Why are they there?
Why are they there?
I think on top of all the world building it's doing, one big question to me, and because we've addressed Santa in this movie, and we'll probably bring him up again. But okay, so here's another note from legal requirements from the widow Geisel when she allowed the rights to go. It says, Audrey Geisel had veto power over the final script for the film. She objected to several elements, notably jokes aimed at mature audiences. Obviously, she didn't spot a lot of them that actually ended up in the finished friggin' movie. She also objected to the inclusion of a Who family with no Christmas decorations known as the Whosteins. The implication being that the family was Jewish.
Oh my god.
And the thing is, and she also objected, apparently, they wanted to have the Cat in the Hat's head mounted up on the Grinch's wall at one point, which I would have been up all for, actually. But
especially after the Cat in the Hat movie came out.
Oh, that's it. The Thumbelina Who's. There are other Dr. Seuss books where there will be like a creature, one of his, go-to creatures, and they'll have just tinier versions of themselves, like under their hat.
Okay,
That's
fine,
what
but
they'll
why are they
be.
in this?
I don't know.
later on, apparently,
Just Ron Howard saw a Dr. Seuss book and went, let's do that.
Apparently, later on, someone is like in the background. Someone is eating green eggs and ham and stuff as well. Like they have got a lot of little things in there. But another thing that this brings up to me now is okay. So Santa Claus exists.
Yes.
In this, so that element of Christmas exists, and the consumerist element exists. But Christmas is, of course, Christ Mass.
Yes.
Within
Yes.
this whose civilization, have they gone through an evolution to the point where they had a Christ figure on this snowflake?
Yes.
Who was also crucified, and have also now invented a hallway. So it's exactly like Christmas on normal.
They do have Easter. They do have Easter. It's in the opening narration that they do have Easter.
Yes, and Arbor Day. But that's less
So,
important. That's just
there has to be some kind of a Christ story, but I was considering this in regards to the Christmas songs. At no point do they sing a traditional Christmas song. They make up all their own. They've got their Fahu Forays, like made up language stuff going on instead of singing any Christmas song. Like even when it's in the background and you can barely hear it. It's a fake made up Christmas song instead of a Christmas hymn, which I originally was like, oh, it's because they don't want to make it, this is a secular version of Christmas. They don't want to tie it to the religious things with the hymns. But you're right. They have Easter and they have Christmas.
Now I'm wondering, like, so Dr. Seuss's wife didn't want Jewish people in an allusion to a Jewish family in there, because I guess it's like, are they all Christians or something on here? And then it's like, but it just begins to sprawl out into questions like, if they had their own Jesus, is this their own Santa? Or is it that they've seen somehow on the snowflake the rest of the universe? And like maybe that's why Martha May had plastic surgery, was not so much to look younger, which is horrifically creepy, and I would like to get away from that. She wants to look human. She wants to look like, I want to look like that woman on Sybil.
I'm going to ask the question that we're all just kind of... We're dancing around the hedge here because we're too scared to ask it.
Why is this movie so...
Okay, listen, we'll for sure get into that in a second with the snow patrol up there at the beginning of Act 1. But the question I want to ask is the Cars question that we're all too scared to ask. Are we dead in this universe?
Oh
Is the
my God.
Is this nuclear winter snowflake?
Not a snowflake. We have no information about humans.
It's a post-apocalypse.
No, that's the no, Dale. That's the question.
You know what would make sense then is that the Grinch is actually a deformed human.
Yes!
Who somehow survived and drifted into
No!
this
Yes.
new society.
Yes, we our resources ran out. We destroyed. We ravaged the earth. So what we had to do is we had to create miniature. It's that one Matt Damon film.
The snowflake is from nuclear fallout.
Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
and you know what's an old trope of post-apocalyptic movie is the lone hero with his dog.
Yes!
Jim Carrey, he's Mad Max. He's freaking the road warrior in this goddamn thing.
The new Mad Max movie, who are we going to cast? Jim Carrey's right there, people.
Right there. It's the Furiosa origin story.
The dog from the Grinch.
Yes.
It's all in front
It's
of
total
us.
I Am Legend. I guess it is actually I Am Legend. Because like Will Smith, the original story of I Am Legend is that he turns out to be the villain. And now the Grinch is the villain. He's the lone hero with the dog who's like, oh, wait a minute, I'm the bad guy? What's going on here? Although I guess the Grinch always knows that he's the bad guy.
He's trying to be the bad guy, but in reality, he's the good guy.
Okay, I've got one argument more to throw into this mix to blow everyone's mind. The Grinch is a genius because he says at 5:00 I will solve world hunger and tell no one. I think the Grinch is the sole survivor, or at least is like the shadow of the brilliant Oppenheimer mind that destroyed the world for us as we knew it.
The Grinch is microscopic, Omar. He's on a snowflake.
That's because of the radiation.
He's been
mutated.
Yeah, there's a escape pod and somehow then turned into a little basket floating on a balloon.
Dale, you're a fan of the DC universe. You know that Adam goes, when things get really tough, I shrink super small so I can just punch the protons away.
Or maybe it's some technology he created, like the world was ending, things were collapsing, and he's like, I need to do something. I've got to survive. He created some kind of device to shrink himself.
I can't fight the theory.
He builds all the stuff. He lives in it. Also, at the end, when you see their beast that Anthony Hopkins is very cautious to put any labels on, he's like, and the Christmas beast became the feast. It's got 8 freaking legs, everyone. So there's just a lot going on here. There's just a lot going on here.
Or it could also be him, the creator of these weapons that have destroyed the world. It could be his mind in the second that he dies from the nuclear blast.
Are you proposing a Jacob's Ladder scenario, dear John?
It's the end of
Jacob's
Rogue
Ladder
One.
scenario.
No.
I was up at the beginning because it was the Fight Club zooming into the snowflake coming out of Ed Norton's brain thing. I was like, wouldn't this be a much better movie if it had the Fight Club twist and Cindy Lou Who was like, and the Grinch were like the same person the whole time, and she internally despises the consumerism of Christmas, so she's invented a Tyler Durden figure in the
When
Grinch
I brought
to destroy
up
Christmas.
the world building, this isn't what I had in mind.
Dale, can I let you know something? You know the first note of the song that the Who sing when Christmas is returned? If you extend, yes, that first note, can you do it again?
Yeah, that fa. No. Okay, you don't keep going. Don't keep going. That fa. That is the sound of an emergency siren. That is the exact note.
If you extend that first fa, this is the world. This is the world in which, and I would like to add this on top of it, this is the world in which the Grinch is thriving. He has adapted to his environment. He's like, I have cast away all society. I'm just being myself. This is all self-care. For that, I have nothing but love for our king, the mad genius, this Adventure Time parallel universe character, the Grinch.
Oh my god, it is like Adventure Time. Oh.
Where even are we in the movie now? I've lost track of where we're even going.
So the horny teenagers go up to the mountain.
Yeah, do we need to go through the entire... We can just summarize the plot and... Yeah.
If we need to summarize the plot at any point, I can just read you my list of notes.
I mean, feel free.
I'm curious about other things too. Like at one point, they send hazardous waste through that garbage chute, and the Grinch is very excited. So if he is a mad scientist type, he's like, "Oh, it's like nucler waste. I can use this."
Hazardous waste. Where's that coming from? If not the nuclear winter all around you.
One of the Who's making this, producing hazardous waste, like friggin' toxic gunk are they coming up with on this goddamn snowflake?
Although if there was a lot of toxic gunk, my idea that he's Mason Verger doesn't hold weight because, then he wouldn't have loads of viable sperm.
Oh man.
Yeah.
In Whoville, though, because it's canon that babies come from the sky. Like,
True.
it's delivered as if it is just brushing Cindy Lou off because she's a child. But actually, in the story, the Grinch's umbrella, his whatever it's called, it's his pumbacella, comes out of the sky. Again, that's not a thing from the book. So anyway, the pumbacella comes down out of the sky, it lands in a tree, and he's stuck outside because his mums are too busy having their sexy, sexy Christmas.
Oh, yeah. That ties into your thing about the movie being horny. Why are they having a bloody swinging party?
They're having a swinging party. You've got those teens on the mountain. There are Who's dressed as sexy candy canes. Because the Martha May Who situation, that's a lot. I mean, Whovier. Sorry, I missed the end of her name. But you know, that's a whole bucket of crabs on its own. But the whole movie is nonstop a little bit horny.
Yeah, I love the teens at the beginning because it was setting up like Friday the 13th meets the Grinch basically. Where it's like, oh yeah, this is the old mountainside where they say the Grinch. Like, you're expecting to hear like, tuk, 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 tuk. And I was like, yeah, by all means, come out and machete these fuckers, please, Grinch.
My favorite part about that whole response to the teens, and I'm sorry, I know this derails the horror conversation, but I said out loud, I sat down to watch this movie, and when the teens were like, we saw the Grinch, I was like, you didn't. I was very upset. It's like, no, trust us. And they're like, the Grinch doesn't exist. And I was like, I hate the mayor, but I have to agree with him and the dad. They didn't see the Grinch. That was a dog yelling into a mask.
Also, everyone in the town knows that the Grinch does exist, though.
Yeah, because they went to school with him. Oh my God, it's Freddy Krueger.
He's just a guy they went to school with. He's just a guy they went to school with and bullied into the wilderness.
But maybe that's like Star Wars with the Jedi, the way after only the blink of an eye, everybody's forgot they ever existed.
And then it was like, I went to school with the Jedi. And you're like, what? It's like, oh yeah, Ahsoka?
Oh,
yeah,
man.
my best friend.
That would be great, though, if
FaceTime.
like Cindy Lou Who went to her dad and was just like, tell me about the Grinch. And he takes her down to the basement and like brings out the old hat, the burnt hat. And he's like, the Grinch was, he was a man who used to teach in the school, and we had to burn him alive. It's like, and that's the backstory.
And he's just drinking eggnog. He's got bottles of eggnog hidden literally everywhere in his house, between towels, everywhere. That is directly from the movie Nightmare on Elm Street. You could look it up. She's just got bottles galore. Loves the bottles.
Oh yeah, Nancy's mom is like a full blown alcoholic at the end. Like she's during the whole Home Alone sequence, she's just chilling out, like just completely blitzed in the corners.
Looks great though. Really good skin. I know she got like a spray on tan or something, and good job.
As another alternative origin story for the Grinch, John, tied into your Mason Verger idea, who is narrating this story? Hannibal Lecter himself.
Oh God, yeah.
One of his things, like, this is what happened, the Grinch. I gave him a popper and one time, and I made him hang himself and slice off his own face and feed it to the dogs. It's like, okay, this is... Hannibal came out around this time, too, so it's just like Gary Oldman probably in the Mason Verger outfit, friggin' 2 doors over at this point.
Oh,
okay, wait, no, but seriously, wait, who is narrating?
I'm sorry, Smash Mouth was playing at the swinging party, the Christmas party. I just realized I was reviewing my notes. And does that play into the idea that
It's
they are
post-apocalyptic.
aware of human reality?
Was it a
That's an
licensed
old song.
Smash Mouth song is playing? I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was literally. I'm pretty sure it was Smash Mouth. I didn't look it up, but I'm pretty confident.
No, it was. They were on the soundtrack, yeah. And who doesn't get it onto Smash Mouth?
I did see the like, it has one of those soundtracks that's like
Exactly.
songs inspired by the movie, and like eels are on there and stuff, and it's like, I don't think Mark Oliver Everett really needs to stop just handing out his goddamn music rights to children's films. This is up there with Batman Forever. At least Batman Forever had the freaking songs kind of in the movie eventually at some point. It's the most fascinating genre of music I think that exists.
Inspired by music.
Inspired by the movie.
Yeah, not the actual movie soundtracks or anything. Inspired by a song.
Neil Goodrich, we're making a Grinch. What do you think of that? And he's like, oof. Lots of thoughts. Let me put them into sounds. Let me hand them to you. Yeah, put them on the soundtrack. I don't care.
Was there a version? Was the Faith Hill? Where Are You Christmas? That isn't a cover of this song, right? Is it a different song altogether?
It seems to me, based on the little information that I have, it seems like they wrote a very short ditty for Cindy Lou to sing in the film, and then later on, like, just gave that to Mariah Carey, among other people, and Faith Hill, and said, extend this and make it a song. And so they like changed the verses and things. So the lyrics are different, but it keeps some of the same lyrics and it keeps the same melody. But it is billed as a different. In the credits, it is billed as a different song with a different title.
So I thought it would have been doing that classic Disney movie thing of like you get the actors to sing the song in the middle of it, and then at the end you have like Celine Dion sing it for whatever reason.
So the Faith Hill version, what's it called again, Dale?
Where Are You Christmas?
Okay, the Faith Hill song from Pearl Harbor is There You'll Be. I feel like this is a call and response.
Ooh, Christmas is at Pearl Harbor. Let's go.
Oh, Christmas has been bombed. Oh god, this is terrible.
Hey,
I would like to go on record saying my memory only remembers one song from this movie. Like I literally came in thinking, how weird is it that there is only one song in this Christmas movie, that they just decided to have one of the characters burst into song and then never again. I forgot that the Grinch song is in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't remember the ending Christmas song with the made up lyric, with the made up Who language at all. Like none of these songs were retained in my memory. Only Christmas, Why Can't I Find You?
I think that's the weird thing is that like for the first like massive chunk of it, it's so much its own entity where it's like it's not really doing that many references to the beloved Boris Karloff, Chuck Jones version. And then they're like, we have to stick the song in though, because everybody wants the song. So they have to have and then at one point you're like, you forgive Taylor Momsen for not being able to sing at that point in their life, because it's like, well, Jim Carrey can't sing either.
No, Niall, right? Jim Carrey is genuinely an amazing singer. If you hear him properly singing and putting his heart into it and stuff, you're like, okay, no, he's great. But so the
Are you
way
judging this by the cable guy?
No.
Somebody
Although
loves
that plays into it, but I've heard him sing properly as well. But no, he is a great singer. So I think he's purely doing it like, well, how would the Grinch do it? Which you could argue, okay, that's great, he's in character, or you could argue it's grating.
I think I don't mind. I think the best sequence of the movie is the "You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch," but that's the bit where it's like, oh, it's moving along at an old brisk pace and stuff, and it's like, yeah, this is fun. I get this. If only they could condense the whole movie down to about 30 minutes.
No,
and then just like have it move at this pace the whole time. It would be great.
I love my favorite thing about the "You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch" sequence is that the lyrics are like, "This guy's a real bad," but the footage is him just being a genius and like solving problems. And then at one point it's like he's got termites in his teeth and he goes, okay, that part is true. That part is true, and I do have termites in my teeth. And then he goes back to just like, I am Tony Stark, and he's just building in the Iron Man suit and it's like,
Something's in a cave. Yeah, the Buster's trap.
Oh, that'd be amazing if that was the mayor at one point. The Grinch made this in a cave. This is baffled at his sleigh or something.
About that sequence, and then and as I was watching, I was like, what is this? How is this real? I don't remember anything about this. And then it hit the crash test dummy outfit, and it was like I was hit in the face. I don't know if you've ever watched Chuck, but the intersect from Chuck, how it just flashes all the images in his brain and then he knows all the stuff. That's what it was like. I saw that crash test dummy outfit and all the memories hit me in the face really hard, really fast.
I absolutely love that bit where he's testing the Santa sleigh that he's created, because the way he is the crash test dummy, completely missing the point of a crash test dummy. He sat there like, yes, I'm going to smash into the wall. It's fine.
I will bring up one thing in this movie that I did absolutely love, and I think should be made part of official traditional Christmas dress, is Cindy Lou's eggnog hat.
Hell
yes,
that
those
was
costumes.
Amazing.
What a marvel of costuming.
And like, in fact, it actually seemed to have liquid in it. Like, it was like, it's not like a model.
Oh, that was amazing.
Here's where I think this gets really interesting, is I didn't know if the Grinch was camp or the Who's were camp. I wasn't sure who was straight and who was queer in this story, because for a while I was like, oh, because they seem like they love this religious book of Who, and they cast away the Grinch, and they're just like, we love Christmas and nothing messes with Christmas. And to me, I'm like, ooh, that's too traditionalist. That's very our most recent Supreme Court judge appointee. And then suddenly they're like, but we wear cookies and we're fun. And I was like, so are you the fun ones? I got
Yeah,
really
that's
confused.
a good point, actually.
I have a note vaguely related to that. I have a note that says what the bad word is this sexy who / Grinch romance plot. I can't tell if they're playing it so straight that it's silly or if they're playing it so silly that it comes off straight. But either way, I'm really here for it.
I think the Who's they have a sense of, let's not forget, they were having a swinger party when the Grinch landed. And he
Yeah,
does
all
have,
they
like,
care about in this town, they care about two things. They care about Christmas and they care about sex. That's it.
That would be essentially like, so you're like Frau Bissina and the other lady who are raising the Grinch. There should be a line of questioning of like
Rose and Carnella, just so that you know.
okay.
And I'm glad you said that, though, Niall, because I thought, I know that woman. It's Frau Farbissina.
They clearly do. Well, I think they do have a police force in the town.
They do.
But they're clearly very ineffective
They have
because
Officer Houlihan.
it should be like.
Sorry, what?
Okay, so Cindy Lou finally investigates the Grinch.
Yes.
She's going to look into the urban legend that is the Grinch. And she instantly finds like, okay, so you were the Grinch's two mothers. You found him while you're having a swinger party, and then he ran away from home, and you never bothered to go look for him, presumably because you were too busy banging people at multiple swinger parties. Probably for the best the Grinch got out of that household, quite frankly, because it's
He would have been
non-stop.
taken away by child services anyway.
But then the fact that at the end, like, you know, as much as I supported the Grinch's right to destroy that town center when
For
they,
his right to party, yes.
yeah, but when they, sets fire to the Christmas tree after like friggin' Jeffrey Tambor tries to give him the gift of a Christmas shave,
yeah.
which was just like, what the hell is that? But
Hey,
like,
that was dead rude. He was just doing that to wind him up and annoy him.
oh, 100%, yeah. But the thing is, after that point, they know where the Grinch is. They've got a police guy there. Go and arrest him. Like, that is grievous endangerment of people, vandalism. He could have killed people, but they're
He's
just
all the
like,
way
oh,
up in the mountain.
No real rule of law.
Okay, can I say this? Officer Houlihan is the name of the man that he killed. He is not a real cop. He is just pretending. This is like a Shepherd book situation where he's just like, oh, yeah. Also, the Alliance, yeah, I know them. And you're like, Cal? For a story for another day, Mal. Like, that is Officer Houlihan, where it's like, arrest him.
That'd
And
be
he's
great.
just like, I would if I had that authority. What? Nothing.
Well, they had
said-
seen that,
I
like,
think he
someone
just
saved
lost
the-
his handcuffs a long time ago at a swinger party.
Yeah, man.
And he's too embarrassed to let everyone know.
And then he's just like, I don't want him back. Once I
That's
find
why
out
every
what's
time someone
going on
needs
with
to be arrested, he doesn't. He's like, oh, I'll
Well-
get you off this time.
One other thing I thought was like, is this supposed to be like a kinky or like a sex thing? At one point when the Grinch is out on the mountainside looking down, you see various things behind him, and one of them is just a green mannequin leg with fishnets.
Oh, yeah.
My mind went to like, is it for Max? Is it a leg for him to hump, or is it because it's green and it's fishnets? It's like the Grinch wasn't raised like. He didn't go through adolescence getting like education from
Had
adults.
to come from the garbage chute.
But is
no.
he using the mannequin leg?
Oh,
Because the only
wait.
person who's ever taught him about sexuality is like the dog. So he's like, yeah, once he needs to get frisky, I got the mannequin leg over there. Because the dog, you rub yourself against the leg. That's what you do, right? That was where my mind went to instantly. Because like, I guess he's so ostracized from society, he doesn't know what else he's supposed to do when he's sexually frustrated. So he's like, I got a mannequin leg and I like fishnets.
Oh, my God. This is not what I pictured when we started this. But okay,
There's
okay.
no, but
yeah,
the thing
I
is,
think you're onto
there's
something.
so much. The way I described this film last night was it's like a seeing eye poster where you point at it and you tell someone there's a sailboat and they look at you like you've lost your mind. That's the movie The Grinch.
A seeing eye poster, not a magic eye poster? A seeing
Well,
eye poster, a poster that sees for you.
Yes, that is. It's my emotional support poster. That
We've all got one of them.
It's
Don't worry. I have
legally
the
allowed on
X-Files
airplanes.
poster looking over me right now.
So it's like this was a movie where I truly believe that Ron and Brian went, no bad ideas, and there's some goddamn, like, David Lynch watched this and went, they did it better than me. Like, there's something that, like, this movie does so well and so haunting that I feel like it represents American Christmas so accurately. Because at the end, because he goes, where do I get all of my stuff? Let me tell you something. I get it from you, because all of you just throw away your presents. This actually means nothing to you, and you're lying to yourselves. And they go, holy smokes. This dude's got such a good point. And even I was like, that dude's got such a good point. My middle brother is like the most Ron Swanson person in the world. And he has a strict rule of no presents. Like, I'll give you like a spoon you can use for the rest of your life. There you go. Or I'll take you on a walk. Like, those are his Christmas presents. So
well, at least it's something.
And it's beautiful. Like, I love that sentiment, and I've like adapted it into my life where I'm like, I buy way too much stuff. This is great. And the Grinch does this, and they're like, you're right. And then at the end, the Grinch comes back and goes, and here's all your presents back. And they go, yay. And I was like, hold on a second. You made such a good argument earlier. And that,
yeah, what's the message now?
There's nothing more Christmas than that, though, to me, as an American, where they're just like, we need to stop doing this. And to promote that, we're doing a sale at Macy's.
Oh my god.
Yeah, for a hot second there, they had a really good anti-capitalist message going.
But we can be anti-capitalists and give each other presents.
Well, that's the whole problem with trying to adapt any Seuss material. Because even like they made a movie of the Lorax, which is all about saving the environment and all this kind of stuff. And then they had a freaking tie-in car. There was like car adverts with the Lorax in it. It's like, what are you doing?
Why wasn't it at the very least an electric car?
But it's one of those things of just like, it's Hollywood going, this is a thing we know that is for kids, so we can make it into a movie. But it doesn't matter what the message. We don't
imagine if the Grinch had at least like taught the Who's how to like upcycle to make gifts, because his gift for Martha May Whovier is, I mean, he does also destroy like family heirlooms and stuff.
Well,
let's acknowledge that. But it is upcycled. He's like, let me get a bunch of trash and I'll turn it into a beautiful angel.
I'm glad you said that, right? Because the reaction to that present upsets me. If someone presented me with that, I'd be like, this is amazing.
I mean, the head was funny, but the body
this?
was great.
Mm-hmm.
You're a child and you made this?
Let me fair to her that she is also a child. So I could understand if she was like, oh my god, it's hideous when she's a kid. But then you find out like, oh no, she's treasured. She's held onto it and treasured it.
She didn't react at all. It was all the other kids.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. To be fair, she was horny for the Grinch from minute one.
She was.
Yes.
She truly was.
Oh, wouldn't it have been something though if she got that plastic surgery to give herself like the black button nose of the Grinch to make herself more alluding to him?
No, let's go there. Let's go there.
What if
Dyes her hair green.
What if we stayed on this bit about the family heirlooms that we're in? Someone on the internet has suggested that in one of the scenes, Martha May has the jewels from the angel in her hair. I don't know whether that's true or not, but it's a nice idea.
See, that would be fantastic. That would tie into what Niall was saying, actually, about her keeping it and treasuring it.
Okay, that bit.
Yeah, not the other bit.
Yeah, what you were saying about how the leg came from her. It's...
She's like, but here's my present to the Grinch. It's throwing down. It's a cast of her own leg that she had specially made for him.
Which is also a bit Hannibal again. There you go.
I love, really quickly, not to cycle back to a thing, but I love how easily, I just love that plot point where Mary Lou Who is like, I'm going to look into the Grinch, and then like on first try, she hit bullseye. What's her name?
Yeah.
Cindy Lou.
Trying. Her name is Cindy Lou Who. She's the only one who's real from the book.
I'm not trying to be culturally insensitive. It is new for me, and I am doing my best, and I appreciate you giving me the chance to increase my awareness of this culture that happened after nuclear war happened. So she goes to and interviews people, and then she's like, do you know the Grinch? And then it's like, yeah, we're the Grinch's moms. like, damn, you need to work for the New York Times. Like, you're so good at your job.
I like that because she shows up with that newspaper, right? And she's like, I hear that you know something about the Grinch. So someone somewhere, like at the library or whatever, has given her this newspaper and has said, hey, you want to lead on the Grinch? Talk to Rose and Carnella. They're his mums. Like, that's crazy. And then after that, she's like, okay, well, I hear you, Martha May, my next door neighbor, his old school, like his flame from back in the day. What?
I just got the image though of like at some point over the last 30 years, like Rose and Carnella lying around their opium den of a house, and someone else been like, it's like freaking Jesse Pinkman's on like Never-Ending Party in Breaking Bad, where there's like a little robot going around cleaning after them and stuff. And at one point, someone was like, "Didn't you used to have like a kid here?" And they're like, "Oh yeah." Should get back to that at some point.
I know they do something good and take him in and stuff, right? But you see, like, these babies just seem to arrive on people's doorsteps unannounced.
Okay.
It's not like they ordered them by a catalog.
Yes.
You know, they didn't place a demand like, I need a baby.
One of the Who's was expecting one because he says, how do I know this movie back and front now so well? But one of the random, townies says, "Honey, our baby's here. He looks just like your boss." And the emphasis obviously is on the joke that he looks just like her boss.
Which only works for adults again.
Yeah.
And also signifies that despite their arrival via whatever it's called, Pumbacella, whatever it is, the umbrella bassinets. Despite their arrival via umbrella bassinets, there is a genetic component. But the important thing that I'm bringing up right now is that he and his wife were expecting a baby.
So you think at one point, Frau Bissina and wasn't Rose and at some point bombed out of their minds. They wished for a baby as well, and then it showed up. The Grinch showed up, and it's like, oh my god, what did we do last night?
It could be one of those things like yesterday, a record turned up in the post. And I was like, oh, I opened it and it's like, oh, this is that thing I pre-ordered 6 months ago. Yeah.
So did you ask for a DVD of Highlander 3? I don't remember doing that. Did you order a Grinch? That's like, I guess we got a Grinch now.
Those custom-made Buffy playing cards arrived. You're like, oh, yeah.
Hey, if they turned up, I would be very excited.
I'm also very interested now in that because it does seem like there's kind of a vague commune feel to the whole town where everyone chips in and stuff. But they also are very... People are paying for those presents because they obviously have to go and buy them. So it's like, well, what's the monetary system?
Can I just say,
here? Like,
it's the same economy as studying improv in the States, where it costs a lot and you're paying other improvisers, and yet everyone doesn't have money. And you're like, wait, how is this working? That was the feeling that I got. It was kind of like a theater sort of vibe of it, where you're just like, are the Who's taking side jobs elsewhere? Like, how can we do any of this?
Oh my god.
I kind of want to see Whoville the rest of the year too, because they seem so cultishly into Christmas.
I would love to see the Who's in the throes of summer.
Yeah.
What do they even do?
Do they have a summer?
Do they have an equivalent of like a 4th of July or like a, I don't know,
St.
I
Swithin's
guess.
Day?
Yeah, like a day that's all about fireworks. I feel like they'd love fireworks.
See, maybe. I mean, it really has a vibe of, Nightmare Before Christmas is, Christmas Town and all this.
It does. It seems like maybe they have like 15 Christmases a year or something.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I'm
every
thinking.
other day is Christmas.
Because we
basically.
know that they have other holidays and that they're like, because it says like Easter is fine. They enjoy Easter fine, but they just love Christmas. And Martha May, when she's a kid, does that weird thing where she's like, I just love Christmas because everything's red and green. Anyway, so, they have other holidays and other times of year. They just have a fanatical preference for Christmas time, but the existence of Easter insinuates that there is a springtime.
Look at how can that exist though? And I guess it is.
And
nuclear
on a
winter
snowflake.
Is it not snowing all the time on a snowflake?
You think so? You think as soon as it hits summer, that's the end. It's over. It's done.
Well, there you go. That ties into what I was saying, that their existence is very finite.
So have they only ever? Maybe this is the. Oh no, but they obviously have spent several years on this. I was going to say maybe this is the only Christmas they've ever had, but then, unless the Grinch thing happened like last year or something.
But it's years to them.
Maybe they age very quickly, but that is debunked because Rose and Carnella haven't aged since the flashback.
And yet, for some reason, Martha May doesn't seem that old. the Jeffrey Tambor mayor looks about 20 years older than Jim Carrey would be at that point. So it's like, what age are they supposed to be?
Okay, question. Do we have any physical evidence? God, this is a tunnel of rabbit holes. Okay, is there any physical evidence from the flashbacks that they're real? Like, do we see like a thing that was broken that later we're like, oh wow, that is still broken? Because
if the jewels are in Martha May's hair, that's the physical evidence. That's all we have.
That's all we have is hearsay on the internet. Because the Blade Runner in me wants
they have the internet.
No. For us, the Anthony Hopkins is. As a Blade Runner fan, I'm like, did this actually happen? I'm not saying someone lied. I'm saying they're like, we've been doing this for 100 years. They're all 3 days old.
I thought you were going to go into like a Usual Suspects thing or something where like Cindy Lou went to see.
You see her walk off and like correct her like gait.
Or like at one point afterwards, she sees like a broken coffee cup and she sees like the word Grinch written underneath and stuff. And she's like, wait a minute, bassinet. What is... Like all flashbacks to random bit of dialogue. Like, oh, you made this Christmas gift, and like she sees a random Christmas angel somewhere. Like, wait, this has all been a complete fabrication.
I love that we've talked about all this, and I haven't once looked at my notes.
I'm so sorry.
No, in the best way. I've just tossed them. I don't need these. This is irrelevant.
To be fair, look at
I'm
this.
clinging to mine as like a life raft. I'm like, there has to be some sense to all of this. I have a note here. One of my dot points is just warm.
This is better, right? Because I'm like, okay, I'm going to do notes in chronological order. It's like, no, this is much more interesting for the listeners.
Well, so I was just trying to think of what other things I wanted to mention. One thing I'd like seeing that Clint Howard is in there. Ron Howard's beloved character actor brother.
Yes.
Really want him
in everything.
Yeah, but I really want to see Clint Howard and Ted Raimi join
Who is
forces.
Clint Howard playing?
He's the suck up to the mayor.
Oh, great. I was hoping that would be the answer because I needed to tell you that character's name is Hubris.
Ooh.
Amazing.
Is there some sort of... obviously they're going for the pun of hubris, but is he undone by hubris in some way?
No! I don't know why.
I love that he
not?
just has it. It's like if the story of Odysseus was like Odysseus followed all the rules and then just came home, and then his wife was like, how was the war? And he was like, I mean, pretty tragic. And then they just lived a happy life. Did you see any sea nymphs? Why would I ever see any sea nymphs? I'm a good man. I don't curse the gods. Like, that
Please write that.
Well, that's actually one thing I wanted to ask Dael, because like, you know, I think we usually do when you come on, because you're obviously a person very, very deeply entrenched in ancient myths, and you're very knowledgeable about them. Do you know, is there any sort of mythical stories of where like Thor hated birthdays or something? So like, because this is a kind of trope now of like, oh, the person hates Christmas and has to learn the true meaning of Christmas. Does that story date back to like, oh, Zeus used to hate, you know, friggin' summer, and then...
Not that I know of, because festivals in ancient times and ancient cultures typically weren't like a one-day affair. I feel like the story of like, oh, and I hate this day, I hate my birthday, whatever day it is. I feel like that has come... For lack of a better guess, I would say in like a post-corporate world, because as we became more capitalist, societies kind of condensed festival time to be like, it's your one day off and then you get back to work. And so the shorter it got, the more you could have that storyline of like, I hate this thing. But I will tell you that with relation to folklore, there is someone, again, on the Seuss fandom wiki. I would love to read this to you. I was reading this earlier, and I was laughing so hard because someone is drawing a comparison between Martha May Whovier and Belle from Beauty and the Beast.
Okay.
Ooh.
And it says here, this is the comparison. It says, both are beautiful. They both have brown hair.
So similar. Done.
Both have two love interests. Because they count the Beast and Gaston, and the Grinch and Mayor Augustus. Both are in love with the main characters, so the Beast and the Grinch. Both care for the main characters and love them for who they are, and both end up with the main characters after they confess their feelings for them. And I'm sitting here like, you're not mentioning the concept of the Beast being like a recluse who the townsfolk hate and want to get rid of.
Yeah.
And you know, they themselves find themselves drawn to we're not drawing that comparison. No,
even though the fact too, like Gaston, he also has a little guy sucking up to him the whole time too, much like the mayor has Clint Howard constantly at his back the whole time. So
hubris
it
buddies,
totally works.
yeah.
So I just feel like the comparison is apt, but they really focused in on that like brown hair thing.
That's the most important of all.
Now though, I kind of want it to be like if they had the mayor was called Hubris, and he announced, "I'm going to be the great hero who goes and gets rid of the Grinch," like Gaston, and then through that he ends up becoming his undoing. It's kind of like Hubris. That would make sense, but now it's like
I also would have loved a little bit of a Nancy Drew Lou Who storyline for Cindy Lou Who.
That would be that's the Taylor Momsen needs to come back for like a Netflix series where she is like Detective Cindy Lou Who, solving all the before the snowflake finally lands on the ground. She has to like solve who murdered something like there was a murder down at the old salt mines or something.
I love the idea of Midsummer Murders, but like it to reset the clock, like they have to solve it by the end of the episode or the world gets destroyed. And it's like it's great, like Rosemary and Thyme, and they're like, we gotta do it. Like this could not be more crucial every week. That's a really great pitch. I really like.
Oh my god, it's basically like Zelda Majora's Mask.
Yes.
They go in. You get Taylor Momsen, she comes back in a heartbeat, and then Jim Carrey reluctantly signs up, and then they get that old makeup artist and Jim Carrey back together every day for about 8 straight seasons.
Yeah, he'd love that. He'd love that so much. I feel like we must be running out of time because we've talked for so long, but I have to bring up. This is my favorite thing about this. The thing that makes me a fan of after watching it and the weirdness of this movie, and none of it makes sense, but I feel like I've come out the other end enjoying it. I think I like this movie. I think it's because it is so well structured in terms of you have an A plot line, which is Cindy Lou Who trying to, find out stuff about the Grinch, trying to get the Grinch into Christmas again, right? You've got your B plot storyline, which is the Grinch and his history with Martha May and Augustus. And then you even have a C plot thread that they follow all the way through that is Betty Lou Who, Cindy Lou's mother, wanting to win the light competition. She's competing with Martha May the whole way through. And then at the end of the film, they actually give you a conclusion for it because she's been, stealing these lights. She's been obsessing about this light competition. And at the end, she sees her daughter imperiled and she goes and she pulls the lights off her house and uses them to save her daughter. And she and Martha May do that together. And she does it without a second thought. And there's your conclusion to this storyline with Betty Lou Who, like, stealing traffic lights. Like, how insane for this movie to be like, we're going to give you 3 storylines and we will resolve all of them and you will be satisfied.
Yep. They're pulling the Return of the Jedi trick there. 3 plots concurrently and they all tie together. There you go.
That's such a very that plot line though of the competing Christmas decorations. It's such a very distinctly American plot to me because I've only ever seen it in American movies where people get like was it Danny DeVito and Matthew Broderick made a movie which was just all about that.
Yes.
It was like Deck the Halls or something.
Yeah, but because over here, Niall, everyone is a miserable piece of crap.
I don't know because here we're repping all different parts at the moment. I feel like we don't do the competition. No one is competing to have the best Christmas lights. But we're also just like, hey, it's Christmas. Let's put up lights so that people can enjoy them,
Well, see, I like that. But most people around here, like, to get them to put lights up, you'd have to hold a pistol to their face.
That's upsetting.
Put your lights on.
I love that there was no joke after that. Dale was just like, no.
I didn't say no. I said it was upsetting. I was upset. I was emotional. And
It's
here you
upsetting
are
to
mocking me.
as someone who loves Christmas, I'm like, put your goddamn
You know,
lights on.
you know what you should do? You should put lights on other people's houses when they're out.
Can I?
God, I
That's
should.
that's hilarious.
It's been like the Grinch who enforced. Someone's bound to have done that because you always have the movie. Well, you have the whole Scrooge storyline. A guy hates Christmas, and people come and try to force Christmas on him, and he really, really resents it. And then at the end, like he ends up loving Christmas. There's gotta be one of like just a town that hates Christmas, and there's just an asshole going out like forcing Christmas lights up on the people's doors.
Oh my god, a
and, like,
Music Man, but,
throwing
like,
trees through their window and stuff, and terrorizing them with the threat.
I love it so much.
To get Anthony Hopkins on the phone, he's the narrator. Clearly.
He'll
And,
absolutely say yes.
Jim Carrey too. Like why not? Like it's Jim, do it the flip. Do like Robin Williams did in Insomnia, where now you're just like so understated. People
To
can't even
wear,
believe it.
Full eye contacts.
Ooh.
You don't even have to wear makeup at all, Jim. Like you don't like nothing, like no like nothing, no powder. Just come as you are, Jim. It's an it's
Could be,
this is
you
a
could go
verite
full
thriller.
Harrison Ford with this and just show up in whatever pajamas you're wearing.
Oh god,
that
yeah.
day.
As much as I love, the Blade Runner sequel, it's clear that Harrison Ford just turned up in whatever he was wearing.
Plus,
back
it's
then.
even Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
It's like, how did they get Harrison Ford to sign up for this? And then you see the beard stubble, and it's like, he didn't even bother shaving. Like, he's there one day, and he's like, give me my check. I'm not shaving for this.
Let me make this real easy for continuity. You're getting one shot. You're like, oh well,
But like,
thanks.
whoever watched Blade Runner and thought like characters in this universe wear t-shirts and jeans?
So can you at least put on this trench coat, Harrison? No.
It was really funny because they were like, we are gonna answer whether he is a replicant or not. And then the first time I saw him, I was like, I know he's a dad. Like I don't know anything else. So good on that. But like, I really, whatever you say, I'm gonna be like, where's your garage? Like, have you taken up woodworking? You like old scotches. Like these are the things I know
God,
about
yes,
you
yes.
in this film. So
I mean, speaking of dads, though, so a couple of things I throw out that I did like. The guy playing the dad, I was convinced upon sight that was like, oh, that's Peter Scolari, the TV's Wayne Selinsky from the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids TV show. No.
Bill Irwin,
It's not him, apparently.
Mr. Bill Irwin.
Mr. Bill Irwin, people might remember him as Mr. Noodle from Sesame Street. He was the voice of Tars in Interstellar, so Chris Nolan movie.
Well,
Chris
he
Nolan,
also,
Batman,
sorry,
blah, blah,
not to
blah.
jump in on that, he also played Tars, which I didn't realize because Tars is mostly
what?
not CGI. It's a puppet.
No.
That Bill Irwin, so Bill Irwin stood behind, and that's why that character, both of the characters, Tars and, oh gosh, I'm kicking myself for forgetting the other one.
Whatever the other one is, I don't know.
But they like they're actual physical giant puppets that he walks behind. They're like stilt puppets, and then they just green
God, I
screened
had
them out.
no idea.
Yeah, so it's like very rarely CGI.
Yeah, because Bill Irwin's like a very acclaimed. Like he started his own circus in the 70s, like what's it called, like the Pickle Family Circus.
Yes.
And he's a real vaudeville like clown kind of guy. And I feel like they kind of waste him in this because it's like, oh, if he can do all that, he should be the Grinch because like he can do all crazy
my
crap with his legs and stuff too. It would have cost a lot less than Jim Carrey did, but Bill Irwin, people haven't seen. I know I've been plugging in for years, but he's also in Legion, which is the X-Men TV show that was great that nobody watched. And his character was a scientist a teenage Native American girl living inside him, who would come out to be his muscle. Like he was an adult man. And he had a teenage girl living inside him, and she was only teenage. They were supposed to be the same age, but because she only came out on occasion, she didn't age at the same rate as him. So he's like a scientist, and then she's like the muscle.
I thought talking about this movie with people would bring back a piece of my sanity that I lost while watching it. But actually, I think I'm just losing more and more of my mind.
I think it's either a trans or a non-binary allegory, right?
Oh yeah, for sure, 100%.
Yes.
Loads of stuff like that. Legion is it's a modern TV masterpiece, and it's insane that it even lasted 3 seasons when it did. But thank God that it did. And Bill Irwin is a great part of that success too. So kudos to the man for that. Apparently, he was also in a Broadway production of Waiting for Godot with Steve Martin and Robin Williams.
What?
Which is like, I would love to see that.
Yes. He actually came and talked to a class I was in. Well, actually, no, but it was a class that I was friends with, so I got to talk to him. And
I'm assuming you asked him all questions about the Grinch the whole time. I'm like, so what was the deal with the green leg?
when you stopped the car with your hands.
And he's like, don't bring up memories of the Grinch.
but-
Like, we were all asking Ron Howard on set every day. He didn't have answers. Nobody knew what was going on.
Very nice man, though. I would like to say a very, very nice man and very generous with his time. A who and a half, if you will. So,
Oh my god, this has taken such a strange, wonderful roller coaster of a turn.
we've now talked longer than the runtime. I would like to point out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god, and we haven't even talked about the plot directly, but I don't care.
How many people know the plot? The Grinch, he doesn't like Christmas. Eventually, he decides to steal Christmas.
So many things have happened in this discussion.
Again,
And you can't really tell when the halfway point is.
No. And the thing is, like, again, at the end, then when he decides, he sees like the friggin' sunset, and he sees the people, or the sunrise, and he sees people celebrating Christmas even like without the presents, and that was again one of the failings in the movie for me, because when you look at the close-ups of Jim Carrey in this, it's like there's so much makeup, it's distracting. Like even his teeth are dented.
You know
They look
what?
amazing. They look fine.
His false
They look...
eyelashes fluttering in the breeze
Yes,
were very
lovely
troubling
because
to
of
me. So I
all
feel like
that.
that is one point to you.
It's like every time I see that, I'm just like, that man must be in so much pain right now under all this stuff. It's distracting to me. And then when he has to do subtle acting,
They let him cry for like a full. It was at least 40 seconds of him directly doing crying noises into the camera, and then it's like a full minute and a half if you count until they actually break it with a joke.
Yes.
and the thing is, like, it at that point it's supposed to be like him, like Jim, because Jim Carrey can't act. Like we all know this. But he's supposed to be doing like, oh, maybe Christmas
Was that
does
can
a
or
little bit more.
can't?
I believe that Jim Carrey can be a good actor when he chooses to be.
When they're
I
not
am
paying
yet
him
to watch
do that.
Eternal Sunshine, so I'm not sure that I agree. But go on.
He's great in that. He's absolutely great in that.
Oh, yeah, the guy is a good actor, but like at this point, I think of maybe why he's such an asshole on set is that he was just getting paid to do this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And he was getting paid. He was the highest paid actor in Hollywood at one point. And it's just, I guess it's just ego. It all adds up. He had to go up, then he came down, and now he's kind of he's back, but he didn't come back the same. Jim Carrey.
At an
he's
appropriate level, do you think?
Well, yeah, but he seems like he's not quite all there anymore. But I think at that point though, when he's supposed to be doing like subtle acting, where it's like, oh yeah, you should be able to see his face move. It's like the reason you can see his face move in the makeup is because Jim Carrey is doing. Like he's like what Roddy McDowall used to have to do back in Planet of the Apes, where he'd have to really over-enunciate everything. And so when he actually has to do a proper performance, it's like all you can see is man in loads of makeup trying to emote but can't because there's too much stuff in his face. And it's really, really distracting.
I love him in this. I have no problem. I think it fits the Grinch. It's a cartoon, essentially. It's a living cartoon. And I'm not the biggest fan of Jim Carrey. I have a lot of problems with Ace Ventura these days.
Right.
You know, it's a very transphobic movie, which you don't realize when you're a kid.
It's horribly it's horrible.
Horrible.
Although speaking of at one point, Jim Carrey does show his ass on screen. Like he hoists his
Like
ass.
Ace Ventura, yeah.
And is this a contractual obligation at some point? That like, oh yeah, I get like, you know, my ass gets 5% of my pay. Like for every movie, it has to make an appearance at some point.
Oh, well, you know, that's what we're paying to see. We want to see that booty.
There's tragic lack of booty in because Grinch does have booty. He has like a kind of bell-shaped body where he you know, he's got a bit of junk in the trunk. Whereas
He do. Grinch got cakes.
we seen Jim Carrey in that skin-tight spandex, and I don't think he has booty in real life. I think he's very flat back there.
You think that was part of the prosthetics? They gave him a booty?
He padded.
Yeah, maybe that was his
I
insistence.
mean,
Like, I'll do your
it
Grinch
was-
movie, but
It was a very horny movie. So maybe they did.
It's possible. It's definitely possible. That would upset me because Grinch is packing back there. Those things are clapping.
Oh. Other random notes I have were just things like that the young Jeffrey Tambor really looked like the UK comedian Peter Kay to me. I don't know, many people probably might get that joke.
I can see it. Yeah.
Again, it's loads of random little what really annoyed me. Cindy Lou Who at one point says like, "Oh, isn't this all a bit superfluous?" But yet she's clearly very precociously intelligent. Yet she doesn't recognize the Grinch when he shows up, and it's just the Grinch in the Santa hat.
But he's behind the tree. The lighting is bad because her mum ripped all the lights out of the house and put them on the outside. I can buy it.
At one point, his face he puts his head through the tree.
He sticks his face through. Right. But in poor lighting and surrounded by green at that time of night, she's just woken up. She's still bleary-eyed. I can believe that she would maybe just think that she was imagining the green.
And you're expecting to see Santa.
Yeah, and he's talking like Santa. He's got the beard. I mean, hey.
So so the Grinch basically what he had to do in order to steal Christmas was that he had to keep an eye on Santa, see that he had done his rounds, and he's like, right now he's done. Now I can go. That was the principle. Okay, because I remember the old. I don't think Santa was a present. Like he wasn't a presence in the Boris Karloff
Right?
one. I think it was just like assume.
I thought you were sorry for 1 second. I did think that you were referring to the Grinch's first disguise, which looks like a bank robber's mask from the film Suicide Squad. You know what I mean? Like it's like sort of this like rabbit, like Five Nights at Freddy's.
That was one thing I did appreciate in the fact that like. Because we're living in an age of like, oh, the Mandalorian. How much is Pedro Pascal in that outfit?
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't know. Like it's like, oh, maybe he's just doing the voice and he shows up for like the obligatory amount of days.
Most of the time, that's the case. Yeah.
But like in moments of this, when Jim Carrey's when the Grinch is going around town, he's got that mask on. You can tell it's Jim Carrey. He's there.
I love
doing
that
it
shot where he slides in, tailgating that car. He's grabbed onto the tailgate and he slides in on the snow. That shot was so good.
Yeah.
Why was it so good?
And you can tell it's him again because like nobody moves like Jim Carrey.
Yes.
That's exactly. I will give him that. This is like, oh yeah, he's got such a distinct physical presence about him that even under like layers of makeup and then an additional mask and a big cloak and hood, you could totally tell that was Jim Carrey.
What's surprising though is that half of it was actually Pedro Pascal. Yeah. Well, he was just coming off of Buffy. That one episode in season 4.
Oh my God! Yeah, I forgot about that.
Do you think they hired Pedro Pascal to be the fake Ron Howard for that day on set?
I'll do my best.
Hell yeah.
Oh, weird enough, the Grinch does an impression of Ron Howard in this.
Yes.
Like, at one point, he dresses up as a director and puts on the classic Ron.
Oh,
at one
that's
point,
the only note I wanted to bring up. Is he being Ron Howard? Because that's a Ron Howard hat.
I think at one point I was like, is it Spielberg? And then it's like, it's got to be Ron Howard because like, Ron Howard does have a very famous like that Arrested Development bit of like, this is a hat on haircut.
Well, you know what?
Stuff.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me look this up because the thing is, I don't think Ron Howard wears those hats. Ron Howard does wear black hats. Ron Howard. But the thing is, Spielberg specifically has that hat that the Grinch is wearing, which I know because I recently read an unofficial biography of Steven Spielberg. That's not bragging. I just want to use that as my argument.
Spielberg is Ron Howard's friend.
Okay, yeah, because the hat that the Grinch is wearing is sort of like this, like World War. Not World War II, but it's like a hat of like someone who served, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
a war hat, isn't it?
It's a war
got
hat.
USS.
Whereas Ron Howard's hats are little black hats.
I think I disagree. I need to find a picture of the Grinch wearing this hat. Grinch hat. Grinch hat. Grinch hat. I'm getting hats that are Grinches. Grinch hat movie? I don't know.
Search Grinch hat Spielberg and you'll find it.
Grinch hat Spielberg.
I'm looking at pictures of Ron Howard, and in my memory, I could just be doing that thing where witnesses see a new thing, and they're, maybe it is this Spielberg hat. You're right. Wait. Here's the Grinch. Here's the Grinch. Here's the Grinch. Okay.
We're really playing to the visual medium of podcasts.
WSS Whoville?
I think it's a Spielberg reference.
Yeah. USS. Yes. I think you're right. Oh my gosh. Because I've got a picture of Ron Howard wearing a very similar hat as well, but it says St. Andrews. And I think you're right.
Initially, though, I thought it said Miss Whoville, And I was like, is there some weird... So in the time he's been gone, they've also invited the Grinch back to be a judge of the Miss Whoville competition.
I love
as like an
that.
olive branch. Or maybe like, Martha May invited them. That she's like, I'm trying out for this. And she's like, would you like... Maybe you can come and vote for me or something. He's like, oh, okay. And then...
Or maybe the Grinch entered Miss Whoville in drag.
I love
It is the
Martha
Spielberg.
Marcy May Marlene Whoville because she doesn't exist in a world with Hollywood, and yet she's Hollywood glam. And in that, I think she is. I know there's not a lot of interactions.
You say that it's a world without Hollywood, but the Grinch plays a Hollywood director.
Now here's the thing. Now here's the thing about that, real quick though, is that I don't think there is a Hollywood, but I think that the Grinch is able to break through that reality perimeter to be like Hollywood, and I think she does as well. And no one else does. No one else is like, by the way, I'm Martin Scorsese. Here's my Who version of Hugo. It's called Hugo or whatever. No, it's like
God. Grinch fellas? Who fellas?
Grinch
There you go.
fellas.
Oh my God! What the hell is happening?
The Who of
I
Wall
hope all the
Street,
listeners
yeah.
are having a wonderful Christmas with this episode.
So like in editing, I was like, oh, I can split this one into 2 episodes. I don't even know where we'd stop. Like, at one point, it's like,
No, do it as one big Christmas special.
Just like the film The Grinch.
There's just a lot to say about the Grinch. There's so much to say.
100%. And can I add this to it? I think that when I first saw the film, I was like, okay, The Grinch. And it was like a lot of choices, and I didn't really retain it that well. In watching it last night, I thought to myself, I am so grateful to be watching this in the year 2020, because this is how a lot of it felt. And I can't explain it to anyone, but this movie hits... It's like when I haven't had a kid, but when I have a kid and I read Siddhartha, then I'll be like, wow, Herman Hesse, you got it. Like, to me, The Grinch, like, this is like 2020 Siddhartha of I'm just like, yeah, screw it. Yes.
the Grinch
I get it.
The Grinch is a man trying to self-isolate, and the Who's are all the people on Instagram getting together and like
Throwing
just
their
like not
fights.
adhering to any rules, and he's just like, what are you doing?
And then he comes into town with his mask, and he's like, oh,
Yes!
boy.
Oh my God, it totally works.
Oh my gosh. Also, I mean, not to drag it down into this place, but this film does directly reference police brutality.
Yes, it does.
It does. Although I will say his taxi joke is legit not funny, where he's like, it's because I'm green. I'm like, okay, Jim. Actually, don't do that.
Does he maybe feel like he's allowed to say that? Because wasn't the sketch show he started on like mostly like a black sketch show?
Oh,
He-
in living color, yeah.
Yeah.
He has recently.
So he probably feels like, well, I'm allowed to make that joke. No, you're not.
I'm sure Jim does.
Yeah.
He did recently. I will say though, someone I think hit him up and was just like, "But you're a white comedian and you made it on your own." And Jim Carrey was like, "I did not." He's like, I owe everything I have to Black America and Black art. Like, he's like, I would have no career, so you can take that back to the bank.
That's cool.
So,
Hell yeah. Nice one, Jim. Props.
For my final comment on the film for this, I would just like to read you the very last note in my list of notes. It says, "Oh yeah, heck, we were in a snowflake that whole time. What kind of magic school bus BS is this? What a trip."
Oh my God.
I mean, there's a whole scene where friggin' the Grinch makes the mayor kiss Max's ass and stuff, and it's like, it's just like there's the abuse that poor dog goes under. Like, it's insane. But if we start getting into every aspect of the Grinch, we will be here for about 5 hours.
That reminded me of WWF when Vince McMahon had the Kiss My Ass Club. And he would drop his trousers and make people kiss his butt.
He didn't bring out his dog and make him kiss a dog.
No,
The dog's butt, a kiss. I mean, it works on so many levels, right? Right?
I mean,
Right?
where else can we go from there? Really?
They
Really?
brought in Seal to do the hit song "Kiss from a Dog's Ass" for the end credits of this movie as well.
da-da-da-da-da. Yes, my karaoke go-to. It's hard. Some of those high notes are hard.
Right, where do we go from here? I think we're going to have to head off.
I think this
up
is just
Mount
like the
Crumpet.
show just has to stop. We just have to go. This is the line in the sand we draw, or we stop
We're
talking
drawing
about
the
Grinch.
line. It's ending now. The madness is over. Go and enjoy your Christmas day, everybody. This is the greatest present you're going to get today, but I hope your family have given you something even 1/10 as good as this.
Hopefully. If not, I mean,
Oh, I'm
please
just giving
sing
you a
it.
Christmassy background.
Please sing it out. Please sing us out. Sing us out. We're not even going to do plugs. Just do it.
I was just singing the song from the end. I'm so caught on this made-up language. They sing Fahu Fores Dahu Dores, welcome Christmas come this is way. It's like, why? What is this? They're like Fahu Remus. Like, what is? It's like in Henry V by Kenneth Branagh when they suddenly start singing in Latin after the battle, but it's Who language that they've made up for the movie.
Hey, Latin makes as much sense to most people as Who language, so who cares? Yeah, and enjoy that, everybody, and Merry Christmas.
Manana manata da Fahu Forest Dahu Doris, welcome Christmas, Christmas Day.